Hey there, Josh. How's it going?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Just getting things going here. Get things switched over.
I assume we're live at this point.
Yeah, we kind of are. Still on the main page here. Our beautiful faces haven't graced the screen yet, but just trying to get things. Let our music fade out a little bit here. And yeah, I was wondering if maybe at some point
Another
we should.
beautiful Sunday. So
Yes, it
there's that.
is. It is. It is. It's actually really nice out. Like starting to get a little fall-y here. I'm guessing you guys you don't have that out in California, do you?
I mean it's cooling off, and we had some rain a couple of days ago, so
Nice.
it's been kind of
Yeah.
nice.
It's
And then the 100-degree weather.
no, none of that here. We're floating between like the 40s and the 80s. So
Yeah, that's about where we are. That sounds about right.
so but
But I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I think we had like a 95-degree day.
nice.
Hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful California weather, right?
Yeah, down here in the valley.
So last week we talked about Section 3, which was the Senate. Had some conversations about term limits, citizenship. Um, I mean, I think we sort of wrapped that up right at the end. Obviously, we're going to go back and revisit a lot of this stuff, once we get through everything and we kind of get an overall feeling on the big picture, I guess you could say, and then also have some guests on to review things. You know, people with a little
Yeah,
bit more.
I think we want to do a revisit on the impeachment thing, like maybe discuss that in greater length, or maybe do something else with it. Is kind of what I was thinking about, or put it somewhere else, or describe it in more detail, like what it means and how it's
Yeah.
done.
Well,
I think that was the only thing that we were up
yeah,
in the air about as far as Article 3 went.
yeah. Sole power to try all impeachments, to try the impeachments. Yeah, yeah. That's definitely something that we're going to need to revisit and look at. But
Yeah, just because I mean, like the situation we have now is where it's like a dog and pony show, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody says, "Oh, hey, yeah, we're going to impeach you," and
They're like, oh no,
yeah,
like
yeah, pretty much. Okay, impeach me.
yeah,
It does nothing. Um, and I mean that's been the history of the
right,
U.S. We've had, I want to say it's four impeachments.
yeah,
What is it, four or five? But I believe it's four. I think it was Jackson, Clinton, and then Trump twice. I believe
yep.
is the number.
Well,
And
and it it turns the country upside down. I feel like, and it's such a distraction to where and then nothing's getting
nothing
done
happens.
from a government perspective, and people are arguing about it and like and upset about it, and then it turns into this political situation where it's like my team's winning or my team's losing, and it's like
Exactly.
and nothing is getting done, nothing of consequence, nothing of importance is
Oh
being
yeah.
done for society, other than dividing people,
Yep.
and that to me that's never good.
No, not at all. So, kind of a segue into this. This is good for Section 4, which we're going to be talking about today. The small thing known as elections.
Yeah,
I don't
the
think anybody cares about that section. We could probably just
yeah
skip over it,
uh,
like just
right.
no big
the
deal.
the the vote that begins with a brawl in this
Exactly.
country.
And obviously my let's here we go. For some reason it wasn't coming up, but we fixed it. We got it fixed now. So, what we're looking at, uh, from the elections clause. Now this is one of the things that I found interesting. It's a very short section, very short. It's
I was just gonna say that, dude. Like
extremely
I
short.
found the same thing interesting.
It's like, I want to say it's 2 sentences. Well, one has a semicolon, but it's literally 2 sentences. This clause in the Constitution, but it's pretty powerful. And this is where you go from the interpretations part of the way things are said specifically within the Constitution and how they're represented. And we'll just read here. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives. So that's pretty encompassing. The times, the places, and the manner of holding elections. I mean, that covers pretty much everything to do with an election, right? Time, place, and how. Times, place, and the way that the elections are held for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. Now, this is an interesting little section here. Prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. Legislature is a very interesting word, and I want to touch on that later as well. But just because, if we do a definition of legislature,
Words.
the legislative body of a country or state. So we're going to talk about this in a minute, because I found some interesting stuff. So the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. So it gives the power of the time, place, and manner of holding elections to the state, right? Period. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. Now, my interpretation of that is Congress can make a law regarding the times and the manner of the election, but not the places. Now that's kind of interesting, to where the Congress can't dictate where you go to vote, but they can change the times, and they can change the manner. It's really interesting. Now, and also in this, which is really, I guess it's the kind of the continuation, the Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. So this is just saying when the new Congress meets. If we look at it, I believe it's the 20th Amendment changed the starting date for Congress to noon of the third day of January instead of the first Monday in December. So the elections used to be sworn in the first Monday in December, versus the Congress starts now on the third day of January. So do you have anything to add to anything that you find interesting about this that you'd like to add before I jump into a couple things that I have?
Well, I just, going back to the idea that it's so short and it's to the point, and that they were delegating so much power to the states, and I think they did that purposefully. The idea being that that the states would decide how elections happen. I think that's important, and I don't, well, it's an important for the entire conversation is that the state pushing power back to the states, and by doing that, pushing it more towards the people, more towards smaller subsets of the people. And then I don't know, I was kind of I, it's a thought experiment, but I was kind of thinking about it. It's like, is there anything in the Constitution that says specifically that a state has to have a legislature? I mean, what if a state decided, like on a whim, and the people decided, oh, well, we just want a dictatorship, like and there's not a lot of reason
Yeah,
for people to decide that, or like, hey, we want to elect a king, and they have absolute power, not
within
absolute,
the
but
state.
yeah, they have delegated powers over it. What would you do in that situation? Like,
I
um,
don't. I mean, there's nothing that says anything within the Constitution. I believe. I mean, obviously, we're going to go through the whole thing, so we'll find out. But I
yeah,
don't believe that there's anything because they leave it up to the state to run however they want to. But I think you'll find essentially the Constitution of each state is going to dictate that capability.
yeah,
So, I mean, that would be up to the states themselves. And the fact that each of the states kind of wrote their own constitution at the same time that this was happening because they had
right,
to, essentially. They
yeah,
kind of did the same thing from that perspective of they didn't want to give anybody absolute power. I mean, that was I think that was the kind of a big thing back then.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean,
it was,
they
it
were a
was
little upset at the time about the way things were run and how things were
taxes
going.
and
I mean, yeah,
representation. Yeah.
I don't really understand it, honestly. Like, I don't see what the big deal was, but like,
Right? I mean,
yeah, they should have just sucked it up and
and
and and
paid
just
the
kept sending
taxes, right?
yeah, pay the taxes, right?
To who was
Like,
it? Was it
I mean,
Henry?
yeah, I think George. I think,
Was it George? I don't know.
yeah, I
One of
think,
them names.
yeah. Give that man his money. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Who cares what you think?
yeah,
But no, but I think that that's so. So if you take from that mentality of, you kind of had this unification of the 13 states saying, hey, we ain't going to, like, we don't get representation. And it makes you kind of wonder if the British, I don't know if they had a parliament back then, but if
I think they
royalty,
did.
if they
I don't
could
think.
have given, like, recognized each state, or picked off a couple states and said, hey, we'll give you representation, or we'll give you whatever. It kind of would be interesting how that would have panned out if they would have done that. But the thing is I believe that there was too much of an ego, and Britain at that point had, I don't know how many colonies around the globe, and there was no way in hell they were going to give any of them any type of authority within
Well, yeah,
their
yeah,
government.
because you look at it. Well, if I give it to one, I got to give it to all of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I start negotiating with two or three of them, now but I and like you said, it goes back to ego too, because I don't think that there was any thought in their mind that they were ever going to lose. That
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
they,
These peasants.
yeah,
What do they know? We
yeah,
we conquered half the world.
right,
So, but I think that was a big part of it. Is you don't, like, we're so far removed from the situation that they had back then.
yeah.
So, we don't understand what they had to deal with during that time of being taxed for stuff and paying outrageous prices for things, and then getting no
You don't think
representation,
that we have
and
some understanding for that right now?
not, not being heard, not being able to, um, voice our opinions, and then prices rising, and not being able to afford things. I don't think we have any. I don't think
Yeah,
that that's.
no,
I
no.
mean, we
We
wouldn't
we have
know what they would,
yeah.
what they
We
felt like
we have no perspective for
back
that.
back
Like,
back
when
then.
you know, and you and I, like, to put this in my perspective and your perspective, I think, to a certain extent, when you're making 300 plus $1,000 a year, and you watch 50 plus percent go to taxes, and then you don't see anything for that. You don't see anything being pushed towards the greater good, towards the people, and making things better. You just see politicians arguing, and uh, you know, yeah, disputes over territory and over resources, like
Yeah,
it that I like. And honestly, like if I looked at it from a federal perspective or even a state perspective, and like I saw, oh, hey, you guys are doing great things, like you are building a better tomorrow, like I'd be like, you know what, take half my money,
exactly.
like,
Oh,
um eh,
I can go down to the doctor if I have any problems. I can go, and
yeah,
I don't have to worry about anything.
yeah. But right now that's not what's happening,
Yeah,
and I think we, like, in all honesty, we are getting towards a similar situation where it's like, you keep taking more and more of my money, and you're asking for more, and then legislators, congressmen, and senators, I forget who it was, are basically saying, well, we can't pay for that.
yeah,
Well, then it's like, where the f is the money going? Like, where, like, I want to know, like,
yep,
and like, why do I have to pay 50% in taxes, and you're telling me that you can't pay for anything for all these people that are hurting, and,
yep,
and that are downtrodden and marginalized, and all the other buzzwords that you want to use.
yeah. Well, well, then I guess it's a good thing that we're talking about Section 4,
Yeah, agreed.
about the election process. No, I totally agree with you. It's one of those things of it gets to the point of, okay, well then what can we do? What can we do as the people to make a change? And I was, you know how you have those things called shower thoughts, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm taking a shower and I'm thinking about it. Like if we truly got to the point to where we were in a situation to where the people in power were not doing what is best for the people, what recourse do we have aside from violence? What recourse do we have to get them out of office? Because I mean, to be completely honest, protesting. Don't get me wrong. Protesting is good. It shows discontent. It shows whatever. But the only way that you're going to affect change with that protest is to actually do something with it, like to actually remove people, which is quote unquote violent. So, and if you take a look at the Declaration of Independence, you know, the whole thing,
Yeah.
government for the people, by the people, you know, it's our right to remove and institute a new government if we feel it doesn't fit us. Um, but there's got to be a way that we can, as constituents, as people, without having to resort to physically harming other people, to be able to affect change.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but like there's this thought that popped into my head when you were talking about that like, and I've been playing around with this for a little while, is like, I don't know, man. Sometimes some people just need their ass whooped. Like, like,
So you're
and
suggesting we build a big shed, and then we take people out behind said shed, is what I'm hearing.
maybe to a certain extent, but the problem is that, like, the government is so big, and it, like, and you're talking about fighting an entire system. You're not talking about taking one
One
person out
person.
to a
Yeah,
shed.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it is a big thing. So
And the violence that's within that, it, like, is so damaging, and people are going to die. Like,
correct.
there are consequences to that, that are that that you can't take back, that you
Correct.
can't that, like, that you can't walk away from. And so the stakes are so high, in that situation. It's like, okay, violence in this particular case, that, is there another way? Like, is there another possibility, rather than hundreds of thousands of people dying in a civil war, and an
Correct.
entire country in turmoil? like, and what that would do to people, and how, and again, how it would divide them, and it is just, I can't even fathom it. It's the idea of it is astronomical.
Yeah. No, it truly is. So it was something that I had thought about, and how could us as the constituents find a way to do that? How could you build something into said government that would allow people to say, no, 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 this isn't what we want? Now, you would normally do that through Congress, through impeachment. That is the
Hmm.
normal process. You would go through impeachment. But the thing is you're talking about 535 people?
Right.
You're talking about 535 people that are supposed to, that obviously have no way of having their opinions swayed whatsoever, and they are true to the constituents that they represent. But outside of that, there's no way for the people to go, aside from during the election process every 2 years, 4 years, to get rid of those people and elect somebody else. But the funny thing is you're not electing. You literally don't have a choice in who you elect. You're being presented with, well, you have this person or this person.
Right.
You are
And
being
then you,
given. You're being told who the two people are that you can effectively elect, because they have to get the blessing from the particular parties, and we all know that there's only two parties that, quote unquote, you know, have people voted for.
yeah. Well,
So,
and not the and even within the two party system itself, it's like, oh well, like, because the argument could be made is like, well, you have a choice in that because you vote for the constituent that gets put forward in the
mhm,
party primaries and things like that. But as we saw with the last election, and I think there's a couple other, there might be some other examples.
you didn't get a
Like,
choice.
yeah,
There
like
was no choice, and
yeah,
the
you
person
didn't get to
running,
vote.
yeah,
Yeah,
there was no choice in the, I believe it was the Democratic
yeah,
representative, and then to an extent, there were some other people that ran for the Republican ticket, but I don't even think that was a.
yeah. It was like they didn't even have a voice
Yeah,
within that to put their ideas and their platform forward,
yeah,
um, to give people a real a real decision on that.
correct. So so this is what my head was going. There should be a way for the people as a whole to affect some sort of a change if there is enough people. And so usually what you would do in this perspective, you would go with 3/5, right, which is more than half. 3/5
You
of
could almost say it's 60%.
almost. I don't
Yeah,
think it's quite 60, but I think it's pretty close.
around there.
So if you do 3/5, so if you take, so and I'm sitting here, I was like, well, just take 3/5 of the population. If 3/5 of the populations, they should be able to affect a sort of an emergency election, right? If you take 3/5 of the eligible voting population, like they should be able to 60%. We'll just say 60 because you made it easy there. If you take 60% of the population, they should be able to say, "Hey, we want a new election. We want this. We want this person out of office, and we want somebody else." Now, when you say that, so 3/5 of a state's population to affect, and I'm not saying just to take somebody out, but to have another election held, like to
Right.
whether you do some sort of, hey, we don't like the way this is going, we want to have a new election, period, right? But then I was thinking about that 3/5 of the population. I mean, you could probably get that from whether it's signed or petition or whatever. from that extent. But 3/5 of what is it of the eligible voting population in the U.S., which is what I don't even.
If we're talking what 343 million, um, you're looking
Um,
at probably a little over 200 million. If we're talking on a federal level,
yeah, at a federal level, but I don't know. So 174 million people of the citizen voting age population was registered. 73% of the voting population is registered. And 65% voted.
65 of the 73.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's a if it's a total because 173% of voters of the eligible voters are registered. So 174 million people. 65% of 174 is not 154. So 65% of the voting age, 65% of the total voting age population voted.
Hmm.
Okay, so 65% of the population voted.
So,
So
so 65% of 174 million.
no. 65% of the eligible voting of citizens of voting age, their population.
Okay.
65% of the eligible voters not registered. 73% of eligible voters are registered. 174 million people are registered. 154 million people voted. So you got a 20 million deficit there. So
Okay.
of the 174 million people that were voted, what is that? Do some quick math, which I'm horrible at. What is that? 88%. So 88% of the registered voters voted is what this is saying. And this is from the U.S. Census. But there was what is it? U.S. Is it VEP? Voting eligible population and voting age population. Okay. So there is, yeah, voter turnout data. Okay. So if we look at this, year 2020, general election, they don't have 2024 on here yet. So yeah, so we're looking 66% VEP total turnout rate. So 66%. Oh, so if we're looking at this, so there's 159 million, so almost 160 million. And that was in 2020. So we're sitting at about 60, between 60 and 70% voter turnout. So I have a feeling if you could get 3/5 of the population to say, hey, we want a new election for this particular office, and you had enough people sign off on it, is that a bad thing?
I don't think so. I
Because
mean,
you're
it
because
it
if you look at this, 66% of the population, but it's almost divided kind of in half for the most part between conservatives and progressives, I guess you would call them. But
right.
so you're kind of like you're kind of looking 50-50 or maybe 55-45. So I mean, if you manage to get 60% of the population as a whole to say we want a new election, I think that's reasonable.
Are we talking 60% of voter eligible population?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
obviously we're not going to count. We're not going to count babies.
118. Yeah. Um. The the only thing I'm thinking about is that is and then you talk about 50-50 of progressive versus conservative, and then everybody in the middle, I guess.
Well, I mean,
Um,
yeah, there's a lot from that.
yeah, you know, you average that out. Like, dude, if 60% of the population is upset at the way that things are being run, I think that's a good enough test. I mean, and again, all this comes down to experimentation. The idea being that, like, if we start holding, or we start doing these votes like every 6 months or every 3 months or something like that, because people are upset at the headline of the day or whatever the narrative is
Yeah,
in the media.
but I don't
Like,
think you're going to be able to get that many people to sign on
I don't think
that
so either.
fast. Like you're talking, okay, so you talk about voting eligible population. You're talking 240 million people. So if you take 240 million times what? Times
So that'd be 120 plus 20 plus 24 million. So that's 144 million.
yeah, 144 million.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not going to I don't know of any petition anywhere that's ever gotten 144 million signatures.
Yeah.
But again, this
But
is
maybe it's not a petition. Maybe it's a special election or a special some sort of special vote. I mean, because
well, yeah, but how
or
do you
you could do it. You could do it with technology. Like you could do
exactly?
something
You
like
could.
online where it's like, okay, hey,
But the
yeah,
question, but you're talking about if you can get 144 million people. I mean, that is essentially a majority of the people that voted.
yeah,
Um,
and yeah.
um,
And the other problem I just a procedural problem I see with that is like when you start talking about petitions and stuff like that. Like we've had this issue in California, like when there was the recall for Gavin Newsom a couple of years ago, um, and where they won't the state legislature and some other people like I don't know who was ratifying the petition,
yeah,
but they were like, well, half the names on this petition are not valid, and
yeah,
how they came to that conclusion was questionable at best. Like where they just throw half of the names out, so it's almost like you got to get double that
yeah.
in order to pass their smell test, whatever it ends up being. And then it begs the question. It's like, okay, well, how do you validate these votes? It's almost like you have to have
Central
an
voting system.
actual vote, like you would in a presidential election or something else like that, to where it's like, okay, yes, this is valid. This is reasonable that they would that this many people want this to happen. But
So,
I think 60% is a good threshold. And then again, what I was saying is that if it's not, we go back and change it and just say, okay, well, we're doing this way too often. The public opinion is being swayed back and forth too much to the point where we're impeaching someone every month. You know?
well, yeah, that was one of the things with I don't know if it was a conservative or libertarian, but to where they were saying for the impeachment part, instead of having to do 2/3 of the House and 3/5 of the Senate, like two or whatever it was, they flipped it to where it was harder to bring impeachment, but it was easier to convict.
Yeah.
So it's something like that, and I'm just trying to think of the big picture here, because if the only recourse that citizens have, the people have, to change something in government when they don't think that it is fair or representing them, if the only thing you have is some sort of physical violence to affect change, that's a problem
Yeah,
because you have
agreed. There,
to
there has to be measures in between.
there has to be
Um,
something that the people can do because I mean and I'm
you're
sure
going
that
from 0 to 100, basically, if we're
exactly.
only talking about physical violence.
Exactly. So, and then you could say, oh, well, each state has a way to get their, whatever done. But if you're saying that the only way that federal positions, like the actual, the government that quote unquote rules the land, if the only way that you can do that is wait the 2 to 4 years, is
Yeah.
that is that appropriate?
And if
I
it's
mean,
that bad and it's that serious, and yeah, and I guess the question I'm asking in my head, and I don't know the answer to, is like, is 60% a good,
a
a
good
good
number.
tipping, yeah, a
Well,
good tipping.
well, my whole thing was okay. So if you take 3/5 of the total population, you're obviously you're going to have, depending on what type of people you want to or you're looking to sign, you're either going to be out, it's kind of going to be split between certain geographic areas.
Yeah,
And does it make more sense because California can make up for multiple states.
right.
So is it a fair representation of all of the states if one state can make up the population difference for multiple states?
Yeah, maybe you do. Maybe
So,
you do it at the state level. Then
well,
maybe you make it like a state legislature decision.
this
Like, and then
is
if 60% of the states say, yeah, like let's bounce this guy out. But like in the and this always goes back to the argument that we were having last episode, where it's like, okay, the part of the problem is that the state legislatures are as corrupt as the federal ones, and so, like, in the idea of it works, but in practice it doesn't, because everything is so partisan,
like you
down,
said,
even down to the local level.
you like you said, well, somebody says, well, half these signatures aren't valid.
Yeah,
Boom, done. Like your means for whatever is invalidated because somebody says, I don't believe you.
yeah,
So, well, that was my next thing. Is like, okay, well, if you try to, because coordinating 60% of the population across the U.S. and then you'd have to have some centralized location that you're doing this stuff to be able to validate the different people and all that. And it's like, you're getting yourself into some hairy stuff there because the voter registration is maintained by each state.
yeah,
So you would have to you'd have to find a way to validate, those people. And then my thought was, well, what if you have 3/5 of each state population? Well, that would, if you did three
and then, and
fifths,
then you and then you get six, and if they vote for it, then it's by state, and it's 60% of the states, something like
three
that.
fifths of 3/5.
Yeah,
So, but anyways, that's just a thought that was going on my head for, if we're talking about removing somebody from, a federal position. I mean, and
yeah,
if you look at it, all your state representatives, the states are going to have means of removing their state representatives or Senate representatives, whatever your congressional representatives. But, do the people have the ability to remove, a judge? No.
yeah.
Do the people have the ability to remove a president? Only after 4 years and whatever set. So there's, and it's one of those things. It's kind of like, okay, something. There's got to be a better way to represent the people. I don't know what that is, but I'm just thinking there's got to be some way that we can voice our discontent. The people can voice
Mhm.
their discontent against something and have a way to enact change versus violence.
Yeah, I agree, and it's almost like, how do you put in a guardrail against mass corruption?
Yeah.
Um, and
It's difficult.
It, yeah, it is. Because you get a group of people together with the same mindset and the same idea of how things should be and how people should behave, or how they should act, or how they should live, and then they run roughshod over everybody else. And it's like, how do you get? I don't know. I don't know if you can get away from that, other than changing hearts and minds, and change it, like, no, like, my way is the right way, to, like, hey, there's a lot of different right ways out there, and we need to have an open mind in order uh, to what people are doing, and understand that, yeah, hey, like, my way is good, and I like the way that I'm living and I'm doing things, and I need to um uh, allow that for everybody else. And dude, I don't, maybe through education, like through societal reforms, and other stuff like that, it could be possible. But, like, the idea of putting in guardrails for mass corruption is just, like, it's daunting,
Well,
to say at the very least.
okay. I'm a gamer. I'll say it. Whatever connotations that brings. I play a lot of games. I played MMOs for a long time. I still dabble every now and again. I believe you have as well. You've played your
Yeah.
share of computer games.
Yeah, I had a stint with WoW, a couple of years ago, that I was playing with my brother. I had a good time, but I was like, nah, I think I should be doing other things with my time, not better. But
So so it is a constant thing within games to what they like to call balancing. Because what you have, especially from this particular community, you have a lot of min maxers. You have a lot of people that are trying to find the absolute best combination for them to be able to make it as easy as possible for them to do the most. Like that, this, like you, from a game perspective, you have to cater to the people that dedicate innumerous or innumerable hours to try to beat all of the content or complete all of the content to get all of the best things to quote unquote mid maxing, what they like to say, to get to that point to where you are the best and nobody can beat you. And then you have the person that is your quote unquote casual player that has 1 to 2 hours a day, that can't spend all of the time that other people do playing this game, but they still want to enjoy the game, right?
yeah, or reading blogs, and reading through, like, all this material, and understanding the statistics and all the stuff that goes into that, and how things get calculated. Like, yeah, I don't
You know,
have 8-10 hours a day to go in and do that.
like whenever you take a look at the Constitution and you read a sentence and you're like, I have no clue what that means, but okay, like I'm just going
Yeah.
to trust that it's the right thing because people that are more educated than me or have more experience than me have made this, so obviously it's the best. It's what's best for whatever, and you kind of take that from you know the same perspective from a game. Well, they put these things in place, so obviously this is better than what I could have come up with. This makes sense because of whatever. But
Yeah.
you
You,
know,
you assume expertise, when
yes.
they're, yeah,
So, but then you look at it. If I played WoW when it was first released back in 2004. It is a wildly different game
right.
now than it was back then. And we're talking 20 years. You know,
Yeah, well, and I mean, you can even go back in and play.
the
Don't they still have
classic.
WoW Classic?
They have
Yeah,
classic, yeah.
yeah,
So, but I mean, even WoW Classic is different. They don't have all of the patches and all of the changes and all of the modifications that they've made, but there's still quality of life changes that they've made
right.
for like questing and stuff like that. It's not like it was back then. And then, and even if you go with different, different MMOs. I don't know why we're on talking about MMOs, but
You started it.
I know it's terrible. But it's because of the wide base of users that a lot of times it has, and we can get into other games that are very popular too. They're constant. You constantly have patches.
Right.
There's some games that are on monthly patch cycles. There's some games that are on, like, if they have enough revenue and then they have enough people, like, they're constantly making changes to sort of tweak what's good, what's bad, what they like, what they don't like, adding new features, taking those new features back out if they don't work. Those things are constantly happening to make revisions to the games, and it completely changes the way the games are played sometimes. So when you're talking about, and to bring this back to what you were talking about as far as people taking advantage or creating guardrails for this particular system, we can't even get games right. we can't
Right.
even you can't even you can't even make changes, because if you make one small change, it has very wide effects across the board for the entire
Yeah.
ecosystem. And you have people saying, "Oh, we'll nerf this, don't nerf this, nerf that, don't nerf that. Oh, this is too powerful. This one's too powerful." Because you always have those people that you have those min-maxers that are looking for the absolute best that they can possibly do, the perfect the perfect macros to use to get the max amount of damage in the shortest amount of time for a particular thing. And then you're talking, if you go in PvP, they're doing different ones depending on what class they're fighting, and then you take that to the person that spends an hour or two a day, and they're like, "Oh, hey, look, let me run over here and let me kill this squirrel.
Right.
I gotta get 10 squirrel tails. Let me go kill 10 squirrels. Okay, go back." They don't give a crap about how good. Oh, look, I got a new sword. It's green and it adds 3 damage. Woo!
Yeah. Right.
You
Nailed
know,
it.
yeah. And then
I'm well spent.
and then you got the rogue that's stealthing behind you, getting ready to kill you, going, "Oh my God, this guy's such a noob. I'm about to kill him in 2 hits." And
Right.
it's like, or actually maybe not even 2, maybe just 1. But it's one of those things to where, and then you have the markets in there, the market manipulation with, oh, well, somebody goes through, has enough money to buy everything up and then post everything for a certain price, then buys all the low people, and then just they regulate the markets. I mean,
Yeah.
that never happens. But I'm just saying, like, to put guardrails in place for those types of things, we haven't been able to
the
do it
law
for
of
games.
unintended. It's the law of unintended consequences. Like, we can sit here and talk about how we would change things, or how we might make things better, but then you implement it, and then something completely different happens
I didn't
because
see
of
that
it.
coming.
That you did not intend, or that you didn't expect to come from that.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Here we go. Hold my beer. Yeah, I mean, but it's true though. It's true. It's like,
Yeah.
hold my beer. I mean,
Yeah.
we're notorious for that.
Yeah.
Watch me.
I
Watch
mean,
me.
you can even look at it. There's plenty of examples in in today's political climate where you've got Texas saying, "Oh, well, we're going to gerrymander all of our districts and do all this stuff," and then California turns around as
Okay.
a mostly Democratic state and is like, "Okay,
Hold
yeah,
my beer.
we're going to do that too." Like,
Hold my beer.
yeah,
Watch
right,
me. Watch
yeah,
me.
um,
Yeah. No,
and so,
you're not wrong.
yeah, and it's like, what do you do in that situation? Is like, because for me, what I want to say is like, look, guys, can't we all just get along? Can't
No.
like can't we
No.
just agree to disagree like
No.
that? And we're not always going to come to a middle ground on what we believe in and what we think, and and what we want for people, and
Yeah.
and just figure it out that way. But nobody, well, at least it feels like nobody wants to do that right now.
No.
Everybody wants to hold their ground, like stay in their silo, and it's my way or the highway. And I mean, I think that like, if we start designing guardrails around all of that, like, I don't know if that's the, I don't know if that's the, I don't think it's the answer.
So
Because then you're going to end up in your gaming scenario where every month you put out a patch for the Constitution and say, oh, okay, well,
this didn't work.
we didn't think of that. So like,
Yeah.
hey, well, let's change this and let's change that. And I think there's a beauty and an elegance to the way that the Constitution was written back then, because maybe they had this exact same conversation 240 years ago,
Yeah.
and
You see all these guys out here playing these MMOs that
yeah,
they're exploiting the system.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But in a way that was relevant to them at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at the Constitution, and if you really take a hard look at the underpinning of pretty much every section of everything that was done, it all comes down to, we don't want to give anybody ultimate power.
Right.
That's what it is. We need to have the ability to, the states need to have the ability to tell the federal government to essentially to F off, like we're
Yeah.
we need to be able to have our freedoms to do as much as possible, but we also need to be able to pool the resources of all of us so that we don't get caught with our pants down.
Yeah. Well, in my head, it's like, okay, how do we give this governing body the least amount of power possible
Yep.
so that they can get shit done?
Correct. No, you're absolutely right. That's what it was. The fear of having somebody take over as king, or the fear of being in the same situation that they were just in, that they lost their family members, that they lost their friends in this war, to and dealing with all of this because they wanted
Yeah.
their freedoms.
Yeah, and they were looking at, how do we not do this ever again?
Yeah. How do we prevent that? So,
Yeah.
when you're talking about elections, and this is something that I wanted to go on. I have to. This is really cool. Let me do this. I have a. I think. Oh man, I. Hold on. So. Give me a second here. So there have been. I looked up some court cases. Because, as I do.
Because those are always so interesting.
Well, this is the really, okay, court cases regarding the elections clause. And there's some really, there's some basic ones here. Back in 1880, so you're talking about 100 years after the Constitution, right?
Yeah.
Upheld the constitutionality of federal laws regulating federal elections under the elections clause, affirming Congress's authority to enforce election laws and punish violations by state election officers. So, essentially, from here, the times and place and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But, here you go. Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations, except as places of choosing senators. So, I mean, that gives the Congress essentially authority to regulate federal elections, aside from the place, right?
Right.
So that was in 1880. A few years later, confirmed Congress's power to protect the right to vote in federal elections from private interference, including violence and intimidation. Now, isn't that a funny one?
Well, just the idea that they had to put that in there, to prevent people from doing that is
to say that it was wrong.
Yeah.
To say that it was wrong.
You can't look at that and hey, let's show up at this polling place, a group of people, and let's beat the hell out of these guys for voting the wrong way. And that the average person can't look at that and be like, you know what, that's probably wrong. On his face.
I mean, you could say it's wrong, But they're the ones with the with the guns and the weapons standing at the election place that I cannot
Yeah.
no longer go and elect. So then that was in 84. The next one here is in 90 or in 41, 1941. So a little less than 100 years, 60 years later. Held Congress has the authority to regulate primary elections when they are an integral part of the election process for members of Congress. So this was saying the states can hold primaries, but they still fall under Congress's authority as the part of the election process. So if you look at that, times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives. So that would be under the manner, right? How those senators and
Yeah.
representatives are elected. Congress at any time holds the authority over that part of the election process. Okay, so before we get to this one, I'm going to leave that one to next one. We're going to do 95. So we're going to go in chronological order here. Struck down state-imposed term limits for federal legislators, holding that states cannot impose qualifications for prospective members of Congress beyond those specified in the Constitution. So I'm guessing that there was something that one of the states had tried to limit how long somebody could be in the House or the Senate for federal legislature, which it clearly states in the Constitution how long the people appointed to those federal. So a state can't say, well, the Constitution says you could be there for 4 years or whatever, but yeah, we're only going to give you 2. State can't do that. It's not how that works. Makes sense. And then 2001 invalidated Missouri's ballot labeling law that aimed to influence voters against candidates who did not support term limits. Interesting. Ruling that it violated the elections clause. So you can't put information labeling certain things on ballots to prevent people from voting for or not voting for.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the fact that they put party on there is,
yeah. Well,
I mean,
and again, it all goes back to the idea that people are always going to try and gain. There's always going to be somebody that's going to try and game the system.
Exactly.
That's going to try and min-max. That's going to try and find an advantage.
100%.
That can give them the advantage in that situation. And I just
So
I don't know.
exactly.
I don't know how do you stop people? How do you get them out of the mindset of, hey, this is not about winning. This is not about losing. This is about living. This is about
look at how many billionaires you have, people that are accumulating wealth,
right,
for no reason, absolutely no reason other than a sign of ego. There's no reason for them. For their own good.
Ego or for their own self-interest.
Correct. Yeah. No, it's part of the human condition. So this is the one that I really liked. This is the one that I thought was very interesting because this went to the Supreme Court. It upheld the use of an independent redistricting commission established by ballot initiative, meaning that there was something put on a ballot that the people voted for, interpreting legislature in the elections clause. Remember that part? Shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, meaning laws can be regulated by the state, in each state, by the legislature of the state. And this is what I like here. To include lawmaking by the people through initiatives. So essentially, this says that the people, through a ballot initiative, are the legislature of the state.
That's interesting.
Right?
Yeah. I'm trying to wrap my...
So the Supreme Court upheld the use of an independent redistricting commission that was established by ballot initiative. It wasn't put in by the legislature. It wasn't put. But I'm guessing that the state legislature legislature was trying to invalidate it and say, we don't have to do this because the legislature didn't put it. And the Supreme Court comes and says, the people are the legislature. Legislature by the people through a ballot initiative is the legislature of the state.
Yeah, so it's almost like giving back a little bit of democracy to the people in that
Letting the
situation.
people decide.
Yeah, rather than and saying yes, we have a representative republic, but we can also do things democratically as well.
For the people. It doesn't. Legislature doesn't have to be only by the legislature. You can't invalidate something that was put out to the people. They voted on. They passed. You can't say that's invalid because they're not the state legislature. They are because they're the people.
You're basically saying that you can't circumvent the will of the people through a state legislature.
Correct.
Or through a legislative body.
Yes, because the people voted on it. So I wonder if you would have to, at that point, put it back on a ballot to have the people invalidate it.
To what end, though?
Well, no, but that's the question, though, is, okay, so the people on a ballot said, we want to use this independent redistricting commission. If the state legislator, if the governing body of the state said, we don't want to do that, how could they get it changed?
Yeah,
they can't do it. They can't do it themselves. They can't from a vote. Well, I'm guessing that they were trying to say that it was not valid, that, hey, we voted to not do it. And then the Supreme Court said, but the people did.
Yeah.
So
and at the end of the day, who do you serve?
The people. But this is where I found the wording to be very. The wording is very. It shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. It doesn't say by the. It doesn't say the state governing body. It doesn't say the legislature. It just the legislature of thereof. So whatever the state legislature is, which is the people just as much as the people that are elected by the people.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I would say that a vote of the people would override
Agreed.
a vote of the representatives.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So how do you want to wrap that into elections and and the idea of gaming the system, I guess?
Well, this was the whole point of what I was saying earlier about 3/5 of the population. If the people vote and they have the ability to affect certain changes in certain things, if the people will it, it should be done. Whether or not the legislature, whether or not the elected representatives say that they agree or disagree.
Yeah.
Because those elected representatives are voting too. They're part of the people.
Yeah. So I and correct me if I'm wrong here. I think what you're kind of trying to say is that use that as a lever against corruption, against.
I mean, it's truly the only one we have, because as much as I would like to say, unless you have somebody that's buying off hundreds of thousands of people, which, hey, if there's any billionaires out there or trillionaires or whatever that want to give hundreds of thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of, if not millions of people, I would then fail to see the bad thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, not only is that not a bad thing, but to a certain extent, I feel it's what people should be doing anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, and this goes back to the thing of, if you have somebody, and this is again, personal opinion, if you have somebody or a business that is bringing everybody up in a particular area, or they are working with the people to better the conditions or to better the people in their whatever, I have no problem with them being like, obviously the people are going to elect them. Why? Because they have the best interests of the people. Yeah, 100%. So I don't, this is what I find that's so funny about it is rather than people getting money, what they're doing is they're just buying off they're buying off a few because
Right.
those are they don't have to buy off it's the same
Yeah.
thing back when you had feudalism. The king buys off the lords and the whatever. Who gives a crap about the peasants? Because all the lords are saying, "Yep, we're going to do this, king."
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same kind of. We've created that same atmosphere, to where
Yeah.
you only have to buy off. A little bit over half of. So what is it? 216 and 52. So 200 and 260, 270 people.
Yeah. Right around there.
I would much rather buy 270 people than I would 270 million.
Yeah. I don't think people do the cost benefit analysis of what that means. And at the end of the day, they get what they want. Like
Yeah.
by doing that, it's just that and I guess if you looked at it from the perspective, like if you just actually took the time and the energy to spread that around, pay your employees more, like put programs in place that are that are beneficial to them and that make their lives better, they they wouldn't have a problem with you making more money, or
Funny
you
how that
having a
works.
big yeah, you having a bigger slice of the pie. Like I mean, you and I have been in leadership positions and roles, and you know we we always looked at it from the perspective of, like, if my people are happy, they will respect me and they will work hard for me, and they
Correct.
and they will do the things that I ask, because they trust me, and they understand that I want what's best for them. And I just
Correct.
I don't see why like why that is lost on so many people in power.
And it used to be, it used to be that way. I mean, you had all your philanthropists, would create libraries, would create schools, would create things for the people. They would better the people around them and leave legacies of that nature and stuff of that. I don't see that happening as much now. You don't see that as often as you did back in the day. People trying to, because I think after the depression, or during the depression, people kind of got the feeling, hey, we need to keep the populace happy, because if they're not happy, they're going to, you know,
Rise up.
cause problems.
Yeah.
So I think that there was a little bit more philanthropical things that happened in giving back to communities and giving back to, not saying it doesn't happen now. It does, but not as much as it used to. I don't believe, and I could be absolutely wrong in this. I haven't looked up statistics, but just from what you hear, and obviously you don't hear as much of the good things as you do the bad things anymore. But
Well, yeah. If it bleeds, it leads, right? Like, from a media perspective, like, people
exactly.
want to hear the worst things that are happening, not the best.
So I think it's time we do like we always do. We have the constitutions that were created by the National Constitution Center, their little project, Constitution drafting project, conservative, libertarian, and progressive. So this is interesting.
Hold up one second. I got to take a little bit of a potty break.
Okay, yeah, go ahead,
Like,
go ahead.
I can't hold it anymore. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. So yeah, we'll have a half chair stream while Josh is doing his thing. Um, so while we're doing this, I am just going to copy this over to here. All right. Do do do. did they break it? They broke it at Congress. Right there. All right, and then we'll pull the libertarian one over. This is very interesting when you look at this stuff.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I just find it interesting as I'm looking at this, the expectations of what you think people are going to. It's really funny when people think of the different types of people, conservative versus progressive versus libertarian. It's really interesting how the process. Conservative is less government, right?
Yeah.
Progressive is more government. Libertarian is no government. Essentially, I mean, from that perspective, that's a very horrible generalization. But when you look at from the election perspective, the conservative section 4 of the conservative constitution is 3 times as long, 4 times as long as any of the others. And the libertarian essentially left it the same. So, okay. So if we look at what the conservative constitution, they put quite a bit of stuff in here. In all elections for federal and state office, all citizens of the U.S. who are 18 years of age or older and not currently serving a sentence for commission of a felony shall be entitled to vote. Now that's really interesting, that to make that a federal. That is now a federal, like in their constitution, it's a federal thing. It's not state. States don't have the choice to dictate whether or not, or don't have a choice to dictate the age or whether or not someone has a felony currently serving a sentence, meaning they can do after. Okay? But it's really interesting to put that into the Constitution. It shall be the duty of the several states to conduct all such elections and to protect the right of all qualified voters. Oh, that's a really bad word to put in there. To cast a secure.
How are they qualified?
A secure and secret ballot for the qualified candidate of their choice. You're putting words in here that, wow. And this is why words are so. When you're saying qualified voters voting for qualified candidates.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to.
Begs the question of like, what are the qualifications? Who's qualified? Who's not?
Exactly. No state shall impose any test or device that has the purpose or effect of denying or abridging the right to vote. I like that. I like that state. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. It shall also be the duty of the several states to protect all qualified voters from violence, threats of violence, or the granting or withholding of any valuable right or benefit in connection with an attempt to influence voting or dilution of the right to vote by allowing any person not legally eligible to vote. Holy, what the hell is that? It shall also be the duty to protect all qualified voters. Okay.
Mouthful. That's what that is.
So you're protecting qualified voters, whoever those qualified voters may be, from violence, threats of violence, or the granting or withholding of any valuable right or benefit in connection with an attempt to influence voting. Granting or withholding of any valuable right or benefit. So this is, you can't pay people. Granting or withholding any valuable right or benefit. valuable right or valuable benefit in connection with an attempt to influence voting. So essentially, you can't pay people.
Yeah,
That
but I
that's
also find it interesting that they use the term qualified voters in there again too, because it's
it's
like,
that
oh,
that's a
un,
yeah,
but there's an implication within that statement where it's like, okay, well, unqualified voters are not protected from violence,
correct.
you know, and so it's like, what are we doing here? Like,
Exactly. Exactly. No, and this is why I think when you look at this stuff, short, sweet, to the point, encompassing like the way that it was originally done, I think it was done that way on purpose.
yeah,
Because when you
agreed.
start getting into the minutia of it, you start to leave, you start to create holes, you start to create problems where there were none.
Yeah,
So
yeah, agreed.
let's see, the value and connection or dilution of the right to vote by allowing any person not legally eligible to vote. By allowing any person not legally eligible to vote. Okay, so essentially they're saying they can hold the state responsible for letting person not legally eligible to vote. You know, that quote unquote takes care of your all of your immigrants voting,
Yeah,
your people that aren't legally allowed to vote, right? Which they don't now, but rules governing the times, places, and manner holding such elections shall be prescribed in each state in accordance with it. Okay, so there's the original. That's the original one-liner. They
yeah,
they added all of that extra stuff to the top. Congress shall by law establish a tribunal that shall be the judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of all elected federal consisting of one member chosen by each of the Speaker and Minority Leader of the House and the Majority and Minority Leaders of the Senate, and 3 members chosen by unanimous vote of those 4 members.
a unanimous vote in Congress or
No,
the
no, no,
Senate
no, 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 no.
of those 4 people.
Correct. 1 member chosen by each of the Speaker, Minority Leader, the Speaker and or the Majority and the wait a second, Speaker of the House. Yeah, so you have the Speaker of the House, the Minority Leader of the House, the Majority and Minority Leaders of the Senate. So you have those 4 people, and then you have 3 members chosen by unanimous vote of those 4 people. So you have 1 appointed by each of those people. So those are 4 appointed by the majority and minority leaders of the House and Senate. And then 3 other people that all 4 have voted for, because they're trying to make it fair.
Yeah,
Congress shall provide law for equitable representation for resolution of disputes involving more than 2 candidates for office. This tribunal shall apply the law in effect at the time and place the dispute arose and shall not have the authority to change or rewrite such laws. The decisions of this commission shall be final, except that any such decision may be overturned by a vote of 3/5 of both houses. I'm really interested to see what they're trying to do here.
well, when you were reading that, I was thinking back to the 2000 election with Gore and Bush, and they they HBO did a they did a movie about it. Kevin Spacey played um, the campaign manager for Gore at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it's historically accurate the way that the role was played and it all went out, but he had this really great line that I remember at the end of the movie where he's like all I want to know at this point is who won this fucking election, who won, because like he's like, I don't care who, like, I don't care if it's my candidate. I just want to know one way or the other who actually won. And I think it's those situations that they're trying to that they're trying to protect against, and that, but I don't think that this is the way. Because I see so many holes in that. Like, because if the minority and the majority people in the House and the Senate, if they can't agree, they can just deadlock and then
Yeah.
nothing ever, there's no tribunal pick, there's no nothing, and and then and then if you have a majority in the House and the Senate, which doesn't happen very often, but let's say that it did, that you can just overturn an election, like you can overturn the will of the people. Like, but I mean, I get it from the perspective is that there are certain situations where elections have gone awry, and we see it we see it all the time in the last 20, 25 years. Every time there's an election, the side that lost is screaming that that
It's
the
rigged.
election was unfair, that it was
Yeah.
rigged.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Well, I
so
mean,
I get the idea of trying to protect against that, but I don't see that as a good answer.
okay. So I was reading the constitutional, or reading the part up here. So what they have is the Voting Rights Act. That's that first part. To protect the rights of all qualified voters. I can't believe the Voting Rights Act has qualified voters in there. That's
It's an interesting wording, right?
yeah, but it's essentially it put that part at the top was the Voting Rights Act,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
the
because the first thing I want to know is like, okay, who gets to decide who's qualified?
what does qualified mean? And I
Yeah.
think that's going to be a big thing, because if I'm not mistaken, right now there's some things in front of the Supreme Court about the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But then you're talking the committee. So this is what they're saying here. For deciding election disputes is necessary. They thought that it was necessary because disputes are resolved by the members of the House and Senate themselves or by the courts. And the problem is if you send it to the courts, if they vote on party lines, because courts are supposed to be they're supposed to be impartial.
Yeah,
So
nonpartisan.
yeah. So what they have is they have this tribunal that of 7 people, that it'll try to be neutral as possible because you have the majority, the minority of both House and Senate. So that's 4 people, and then 3 people that all 4 people have to agree on, because that'll happen.
Yeah.
And the tribunal
Yeah.
will
I mean,
only apply. Go ahead.
we see it all the time with cabinet appointments and
Right?
and Senate hearings. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they always come to a reasonable agreement about like who should be appointed.
So, and then those members select by unanimous agreement additional neutral commissioners. Yeah. Okay, the tribunal will apply pre-existing law, thus eliminating the unseemly spectacle of supposed law interpreters changing electoral law in the middle of an election. The commission has the final say over election disputes, except that Congress may override by 3/5 of both houses. So that
I
is, I understand it because you're trying to take the election disputes out of, you're trying to make it consolidated, the election
Yeah.
disputes. But I guess my question is why are you having election disputes? Like the odds of a person becoming 50-50 with an election result are very slim.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that we to a certain extent, at least I think we do, we solve that issue by talking about the way that votes are counted, and then you have the
Exactly.
backups in place, and it's like you can go back and you can go back and look over the data. Like anybody can look at it. You can look at the digitized version, or you can go back and look at the votes themselves, and if they don't add up and they don't things look weird or they look hinky, then you just
Well,
then you head down that road. But it's like,
yeah.
we already have this system in place where it's like, okay, hey, I've got the same votes with my paper trail, and with my and
Electronic,
through
digital.
my digital tool. So you're saying somebody gamed all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then at that point, I don't see how you would have a dispute.
yeah.
Because what it is
I
now
mean,
is you have, well, the thing with disputes is, oh, well, people didn't count the paper ballots right. They didn't do this right. They didn't do like, oh, because people are fallible or whatever. And it's really interesting to
Or you
me.
got the hanging Chad thing that happened back in the 2000 elections.
Yeah.
You know,
Like, oh, well, what about this ballot? Or what about this one? Like, how does this still has this? Like, is this a valid ballot or not? Oh, like you said, well, I don't believe that those 500,000 signatures are real. So they're gone. You know, and I think that, and like we talked about the election process, this is where we need to put the information as far as like, hey, this is how elections will be held. Like these are
Mhm.
the rules around elections. Congress has the ability to dictate the manner and the time of which elections take place. They don't
Yeah.
have not the place, but the manner and the time. That's what it says in our current constitution.
Yeah,
So
but do we then take that a step further and enshrine that and say, okay, hey, this is the manner in which
this is the
elections will be
base.
taken
This
and
is what you
how they'll
have.
be counted.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is this is your base of how this will be done. You can do however you want on top of that, but you have to
yeah,
meet this minimum standard. I mean,
yeah,
it's sort of like what what's our military, right? You have your minimum requirements to be a part of the military. You have to meet certain criteria before you're allowed to participate.
yeah.
Isn't that?
But
I mean, that's
yeah, but then if you want to be in special forces or you want to be in a specific job like the ASVAB, which is the test that you take for what jobs you have available to you in
mm-hmm.
within the military. If you don't score high enough, they're not going to let you play with nuclear reactors.
Yeah,
You know, or like in the special forces, if you can't meet the physical fitness standards, you're out.
exactly.
Like, yeah,
So I mean, so I don't think it's wrong. And obviously the forefathers knew that we were, when they wrote this constitution, they knew that we were going to have, electronic voting capabilities and
exactly.
the
And
internet
that we
and
could count millions of votes in less than a second.
yeah,
You know,
well, I mean, it's just like your math teacher always said. It's not like you're going to have a calculator in your pocket.
right?
Why can't I
But
use
I
my
am.
calculator? You're not going to have a calculator in your pocket whenever you're walking
Yeah,
around doing stuff. You're
yeah,
absolutely right. We definitely won't
yeah. That's never gonna happen.
ever.
And now I have something in my pocket where I can look up any information about any subject that I want. What like on the face of this earth
Yep,
that
just about any.
yeah,
I mean, it's your decision of whether or not that information is true and correct. Or
reliable. Yeah,
yeah. So the conservative, I like the fact that they put the Voting Rights Act. I don't like the wording. There's some concerning wording in there because the thing is there is nothing in the Constitution that says who is allowed to vote, how they are allowed to vote, or anything like that.
yeah.
It says Congress has the ability to make laws regarding regulations, except
Right.
for
And they've done that
places.
over the years.
Yeah, Voting Rights Act.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it is that has it gotten to I guess the question I'm asking is has it gotten to a point where there's certain things that we have to enshrine, and they've done that with some of the amendments too, like where you cannot discriminate against somebody voting based on race, color,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. But do we just take that a level up and we just enshrine that stuff? Like, hey, like again, you're saying like here's the baseline. You
yep,
can't, yeah, you can't do less than this. You can do more, but you can't do less.
correct. You have to meet these minimum requirements, and that's where I like the fact that they put no state shall impose any test or device that has a purpose of effect of denying or abridging the right to vote.
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing that. They did that in the South. If you couldn't pass this test, then you couldn't vote because you weren't
Right.
educated enough
Or
to
yeah,
vote.
or if you couldn't read or you couldn't
Hmm.
there was a couple. Yeah.
Well, obviously, if you can't read, how can you vote? How do you know who you're voting for?
I don't know, man. Like,
You
cause
you would have thought that they would have taken advantage of that. I don't.
yeah,
Oh, you can't read?
y-
Then this is the box you want to fill out right here.
yeah, like yeah. Here, just check right here. You're
Yeah,
good. Trust me.
exactly.
I'm being honest with you.
Trust me.
but like in the vein of voting and stuff like that, this other idea popped into my head that I've been kicking around for a while, and the idea that and I this may or may not get a little bit off topics, and so I apologize, but that in order to vote, like you need some sort of skin in the game. You know, like originally, like it was.
Landowners.
I believe that it was landowners,
Yep.
white landowners. That was the stipulation that they made,
Mm-hmm.
and to a certain extent, not the white part, but like the land ownership. I kind of get it from the perspective of like, okay, if you own land, you're paying property taxes. You're paying, you're 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 invested in the system itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like whereas I feel like there's a
Somebody that
lot.
rent obviously doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, and
So
then
so if we just buy
it
up all the land and everybody rents, then we don't have to
right.
give them representation.
Just using it as an example, like as a baseline.
I got
But
you. No, I
you
got
know,
you. Well, if you pay taxes, right?
I appreciate you coming at me hard. By the way, like I deserve that. Yeah, like
Well, no,
um,
but no, I understand what you're saying. A base qualification of hey, there's a reason why I'm vested in making
yeah.
changes.
Well, I'm trying to they call it something these days. It's low something voter, a low engagement voter, a
Yeah,
low in yeah. And it's like, well, and then on the other side of it too, it's like if you're a voter that doesn't pay taxes, that gets everything back through the child tax credits, or or that that's all you're doing is you're getting you're living off food stamps, and you're living off disability, or this, you have a very different mindset than a person that is going out there working hard, trying to give, hopefully by it through that hard work, then trying to give back to other people, and do things and pull people up with them.
yeah,
Where you're invested in the system versus you're living off the system. And I wonder if there should be something in there that, or something that we could create to, man.
you
But you,
you're.
like, even as I'm saying it,
I'm
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 like,
I'm waiting
you
for you to
go down,
finish so I can
yeah,
have fun with you.
yeah. You go down that road, and it's like, where does it stop, and who gets to decide that? And I,
Well, it's
you know,
fine. It's fine because military members, that they live off of their pensions or live off that stuff. They're living off the government, so they don't get a right to
well,
vote.
for me personally too, like I get a disability check every month
Yeah.
for the VA.
So
So like,
obviously you shouldn't get to vote
yeah,
on how you're
exactly,
represented or how
yeah.
you know the
And then
changes that are
especially if
made.
they decided to take that disability, that disability away from you. Hey,
Well, I mean,
we're getting
you're taking my
we're
tax
getting rid of the
dollars.
VA.
Yeah, you're
You
taking
know,
my tax dollars for you, and you're just living off the state. So obviously, I should have a choice of whether or not you get those benefits because it's my money that
yeah,
you're taking.
right. I
But the question is okay, if I paid taxes for 30 years, 40 years, and then I get Social Security, am I not allowed to
yeah.
vote now?
No,
So,
I absolutely think you should be able to vote. I
well,
guess
where's that line?
yeah, and like, where do you put it? I get it, 100%.
It's no, no, no.
Um,
And okay, we can correlate this to birthright citizenship. We had this
yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
Where does that, where is it? Well, you're just an anchor baby versus, well, I'm a military person and I've served in the military and I'm overseas.
yeah,
Or how is it that, hey, well, I had my child in, we'll just say Michigan, and I'm not a citizen, but Michigan doesn't recognize birthright citizenship, but Tennessee does.
Yeah.
So I'm not a citizen in Michigan, but Tennessee says that I am a citizen.
So
It's
I guess the problem that I'm thinking about and the problem that I want to solve for is how do you how do you get these low engagement voters? How do you get them interested, and how do you give them an understanding for the entire for the system, where it's like
it's really
where it's not
easy.
some,
And this is bad, and there are horrible things
here we go.
that are attached with this. If you don't vote, you get no state or federal benefits. Done.
Huh.
No state or federal benefits at all. None. Zero. No SSI. No food stamps. No tax breaks. No military pension. No anything. You get zero from the state or federal governments if you don't vote.
Yeah. So
No, 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 no.
and
I mean, you want
I
people to
think
vote, right?
I think that's a good idea. I do. But what I'm thinking about is, well, if I'm getting free money, like of course, and the stipulation is that I have to vote, yeah, then I'm gonna go vote.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily change my mindset of what I'm
We're
voting for, or
we're
like,
just
or
well, okay. No, no, no,
give me
no.
let me finish.
Go ahead.
Like,
Sorry.
till I as far as like how I'm getting these benefits, why I'm getting these benefits, and like does it make sense for society as a whole for this system, or this socialist idea to be in place? Whereas, because most people are going to look at that, and they'll be like, oh, hey, well, if I need SSI, I'm gonna keep voting, and I'm gonna vote for the people that protect my benefits, that make sure that I'm not having to pay taxes, make sure that I'm that I'm protected, and not look at it from a holistic perspective of like, what am I, like, what is this actually doing to society as a whole? Is it a benefit? Like, is it an overall benefit, or should we look at this
Should we
in a different way?
should we reflect on the election of 2024 about how people voted for someone that said they would take away benefits, and yet they were still voted for? So, I mean, I would think that
You're
if somebody says, "Hey, we're going to get rid of the VA," that they would not be voted for by veterans. You would think.
you would hope.
You would think
You
that
would
if
hope.
that someone said, "Hey, I am going to double or triple the costs of the stuff that you are getting from outside of the US that is a staple for your business, or I am going to add double or triple the cost so that people are not going to buy things from us because it's
Because
going to
I
be too
have to add that
expensive."
cost into my business model.
Yeah, I mean, look at the farmers with the soybean farmers right now. Their main purchaser of their crop is not buying anything. We're talking billions of dollars of crop that are just gone, and now those people have to look to the government, the federal government, to get money to make up for that lost revenue. And we all know that we like to bail out businesses. So
We do.
and
Big to
the
fail,
fact
buddy. Come on,
so
get with the
so
program.
so what I'm saying is for you to say that people are only going to vote in their own self-serving interest, we've obviously proven that wrong. You can say whatever the hell you want to say, and people are still going to vote for you.
But
Okay, you
I
can't
feel like
argue with me. Come on.
but
Put it.
to a certain extent, I feel like you're making my argument for me, because it's like, I
No,
mean, like,
people.
I'm gonna break it down, and you're saying, look, basically people are stupid, and like, and and they're just gonna vote however somebody else tells them, and like, and breaking it down that far, like, that is what I to a certain extent, that is what I am
And
trying to say is like, how do we get people to engage and understand the issues and uh,
okay,
want to vote from an an educated and place of understanding.
man, I tell you what, if anybody, if this is the stream to watch, like so far, this is obviously the best one that we've had for this stuff. No, so here's the thing, and that was sort of the reason for the electoral college. That was the reason why we have representatives, because you can't let the populace, in a famous words of a particular actor, the common clay of the West, they don't understand it. It's just like sitting here, as we're going through the Constitution and we're looking at it. I don't have a law degree. You don't have a law degree. I mean, some of this stuff I'm reading for maybe the second, maybe the third time in my life, and trying to understand what all of this means, and even looking up some of the law cases of the way things have been decided on the wording and how it's portrayed. You try. I really don't want to get into current politics, but if you have somebody that says we're going to make billions, if not trillions, off of tariffs, and people are like, yeah, make those countries pay, and they don't understand the people that are going to be paying for it.
Is you.
And they
It's
have it
it.
in their head that I am not paying anything. My prices are going to go down. The cost of goods is going to go down for me because other countries are going to be paying more. And that is their mentality that they have of what tariffs is. We have tried to do tariffs. This is the third time in the history of this country. And every single time, the past two times we've done this, we've had a depression.
Yeah.
It has not been good for our economy, and it does not work. Using historical data. I'm not talking about some like crazy predictive modeling bullshit. I'm talking about actual historical data of what has happened in this country. And tariffs have never been good for this country in the two times that we've tried it. And now we're on our third, and it's really, really interesting that the same thing is happening.
Well, I
But the
mean,
fact that people don't know. So again, back to your point, people voting in their self-interest, if you're forcing them to vote and you're forcing them to make a choice from a perspective of you get nothing from the government. This includes any subsidies, any grants, anything at all. If you are in any way, shape, or form, if you do not vote, you don't get that money. I think that is going to create more engagement. Also, from the
yeah,
point of if you take away if you take away the two-party system, if you take away the need to vote, well, I either have to vote this color or this color. Like I only have two colors to choose from. Green is not an option. Yellow is not an option. Purple is really out there. Like the fact that you're saying that you only have two people to choose from, and people vote for the lesser of two evils, and the fact that the platforms that they are spouting have nothing to do with fucking policy. I'm sorry, they have nothing to do with policy. It is,
yeah,
but what they're doing is they're appealing to the base emotions of a person,
yeah.
and people are voting off of emotion versus fact and proper thought, which is, from a human perspective, is always going to be more effective.
Yeah.
We're more emotional beings. It's
Yeah. Agreed.
the,
No, and I like I think you're right about the idea of, hey, no benefits unless you vote. If you don't participate, you don't get to reap the benefits of the system.
yep,
And I think that would create more
engagement.
engagement at the end of
Yeah,
the day. Yeah. And maybe get people thinking like, okay, well, hey, if I have to do this, I should maybe, you know, try to get a little bit involved. And again, if you throw in ranked choice voting and you take away the party system, and people actually feel like they have a voice, I think that's
Yep.
I think that's a solid play as well. But yeah, it is going back to your particular point about the tariffs. I was even thinking about the you know back in 2020 when I think we infused over like $2 trillion into the economy through the government, and that people thought that was a great thing and that they were going to get their checks, and then had no thought for the idea that, hey, if I increase the amount of money in the economy by, I don't know, like 10, 20%, that the overall money in that pot is going to be worth less because I've created more of it out of nothing. And but again, like you said, people don't think that way.
They
Like,
don't. You look at the quote unquote crisis that we have with farming right now. Of they can't sell stuff to Canada. They can't sell stuff to Mexico. They can't sell stuff like one of the major exports of one of the major exports of the U.S. is farming, is
right.
goods. Is farming goods. I don't even know what you want to call it. Agricultural. There you go. That's a big export of the U.S. And the fact that you take you take all that away, and the thing is farmers are already getting subsidies. We're already subsidizing farming
Right.
in the country. And the fact that it's essentially, well, now you took away the people that we were selling to, so you need to give us more money. And it's, and then you complain about you know, the people that can't find a job somewhere and, they want to be able to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's both. It's the same thing. That's the funny thing is we go round and round about the same thing all the time. Handouts. Somebody, I'm working my butt off here, and somebody's sitting on theirs and not doing anything, and I got to pay for them to be able to sit on their rear. I mean, you're doing that all the time by, working. I mean, eventually the money goes up, and they're sitting on their rear. They act like they're doing all of this, cool stuff and creating jobs and everything. But I mean, when it comes down to it, they're taking advantage of the populace and making money off of them. Whether it's through like the wages that you're making, they're obviously making money off of whatever product it is that you're giving them. They're making money off of it, and then they're working to keep that money as much as possible. They are employing people to prevent them having to pay for the services that allow them to continue doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's, and yet we're mad. I mean, we have our kids that have to pay for their school lunches. Parents have to pay for their kids to eat when they're at school. That is normally a mandated by the state, usually mandated that their kids have to attend school in some manner.
Yeah. And then
So
they don't want to feed them.
But then the thing is you look at the teachers that are getting crap pay for the job that they're doing, and most people look at it, well, they're just babysitting my kids for 8 hours while I go to work for whoever, and I don't make enough money to be able to, like, it's all BS. It's all, the thing is it all comes down to a class system to where you have the ability of some people to suck the money out of them as much as possible because they don't have the means or the way to stop it.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks. You don't. The average person doesn't have a way to say, "Hey, I don't have to pay taxes this year because I can write off $10 million in whatever, so I don't have to pay taxes." And you have business owners that write off $10 million in whatever, so they don't have to pay taxes. It's
Or I keep my $5 million in an equity fund or whatever it is, and then I pay an effective tax rate of 10%, and this income earner,
Yeah,
pays
30
30,
or
40
35 or
even.
yeah, whatever.
I
So
mean, like
it's
living in California, I was paying 50.
by the
That
time
that was
state and everything else.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. And that's where you come from, the election process of having everybody be able to vote and be represented fairly, which is if
I
you
mean,
look
that's a
at.
huge endeavor and statement in and of
Well,
itself.
well, yeah, and just like you said, Texas comes off and says, "Hey, we're going to gerrymander our state to where we have more Republican, representation." So California goes, "Cool, we'll do the same, except we'll do it for Democratic."
Yeah.
It's like we try to be fair. We have an independent commissioner. We have whatever, and everybody can look at fair differently. You have equal representation. You have equitable representation, and I think there's another word out there that I'm missing. But if the fence is 6 foot high, and everybody's 4 foot, equal representation. Everybody gets a 1 foot thing. Well, what if somebody's 6 foot? What's somebody's 5? What's somebody's 4?
Yeah.
What is equal representation between the three of them? Well, everybody gets a 1 foot boost. So you got a guy over here that's 6 foot, that's 2 feet above the fence, and nobody else can see anything because they're behind the fence. There's a thing with that. So you do equitable. The 6 foot guy doesn't need anything. The 4 foot one needs 2 feet, and the 5 foot one needs one. That's equitable. But then you go, oh well, that's unfair. That's DEI. That's this. That's that. I mean, call it whatever you want. That's not merit based. Why should those two other people get to see over the fence?
Yeah.
Why should I have to buy them a 2 foot, buy this person a 2 foot thing to see over the fence? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
So
and how do you regulate that? And then, once you start doing that, you have to create a bureaucracy to
correct,
to manage it.
correct.
And then it's like, and then who gets to decide the rules of that?
The
And
people that are elected by the people through the
yeah,
election process, dictated in
yeah,
the Constitution, Article 1, Section 4. Bringing it back.
fair enough.
I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
We're bringing it
So
back in.
about the progressive changes to the
Okay.
to the voting.
Well, real quick. The
Yeah.
Libertarian. It doesn't look much difference. The times, place, and manner of holding elections and senators. That's Congress didn't make alter law, so that's all the same. The only thing that the Libertarians did was they added the 20th Amendment. They updated it. Terms shall end noon the third day of January. The terms of the successor shall begin, which is new wording. Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall begin noon the third day of January unless law. So they added the 20th Amendment into the Constitution, just updating it what's already there. Progressive. So, gerrymandering, we talked about this. Except to the creation, maintenance, and redrawing of legislation districts, the times, places, and manner of holding elections and the qualification of electors for senators shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. The Congress may at any time make a law or alter such regulation, except as the placing, which is really funny. So they're saying that the states cannot put their legislative boundaries. So it essentially takes the ability to gerrymander away from the states. The districts are not, the states cannot have any, they don't have the ability to create their districts. But it's really funny.
Right. But we talked about that too. We were
Yeah.
we were kind of that mindset as well.
Well, this is just explicitly stating it, even though Congress already has the power, because they have the ability. Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations of the times and manner of holding the elections, which gives them the right to legislate against redistricting. Each state shall establish an independent commission for the purpose of creating, maintaining, and redrawing legislative districts. Each state shall establish an independent commission. I still don't understand. I mean, I guess to an extent, if you establish one for the whole country, it's easier to buy out. The same way you talk about representatives. Oh, well, if it's an independent commission, We could just buy those 5 people, those 10 people, those 15 people. We could just pay
Yeah.
them, and then they'll redistrict the entire U.S. to be,
Yeah.
whatever we want it to be, on a
Yeah, and
nonpartisan
I'm still
basis.
I'm still of the mindset of an open source auditable algorithm.
I understand.
Where with the data
Yeah.
um, being chosen upon and agreed upon.
So, so purpose of creating, maintaining, redrawing legislative boundaries on a nonpartisan basis. The number of persons represented by each representative within the state shall be substantially equal between districts. This provision should not be construed to require that congressional districts may only have one representative. The Congress has the power to enforce this requirement by appropriate legislation. You know what they don't have in here? That's really weird. They don't have anything about the when
Elections take place.
when the elections take place, or no, not when the elections take place. When the new Congress. When the new yeah, that was completely removed.
I wonder why. Do they talk about it?
I wonder if they put it in a different section. Huh. That's interesting. Let's see what we have here. Quality, effective governance, free and fair elections. So I think that they go into more detail. Does not explain. Let's see. Constitution is at once too vague and too specific about the electoral process. Does not explicitly guarantee the right to vote and underspecifies the condition in which elections should be conducted, but also provides for presidential election through a misguided electoral college. See, that's in Article 2, I believe.
Okay.
Or maybe Article 3. I can't remember which one's legislative judicial and executive. I think 2 is executive, if I'm not. Yep. Article 2 is the president, which is the executive branch.
And then Article 3 is the judicial.
He is the judicial. So I don't see anything about the election of that. Yeah, that's interesting that they don't have anything about that. The fact that they took that out of there is very interesting. Huh. I don't think real checks and balances. I don't think they. Yeah, they don't have anything in there about it. So that's interesting that they took it out and they don't have, because a model that works as civil state data, this approach would not preclude Congress.
I'm just closing my window.
You're good. Regulation of campaign expenditures. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, they don't have anything in there. That's really interesting that they took that part of the. They took that part out. So
Yeah.
So I guess the. So if we're talking about. If we're talking about, we would want Voting Rights Act included.
Yeah.
Remove, what was it? The qualified?
Yeah.
This is where we would put in because I don't believe that there's any other section to where we have. Well, no, the redistricting. Okay, that was section 1. Section 2, this is the redistricting, which is really interesting that they don't. The fact that so they talk about the House of Representatives in here, which is the redistricting part, because the districting for the House is essentially what they do for, only for the House.
Yeah.
So the fact that the progressives put that in the election part versus under, I don't think that they put it under the House of Representatives.
Right.
Yeah, they removed it.
Hmm.
Or no, they didn't have anything. Shall the number of representatives shall not exceed one for every 30 that each state shall have at least one representative. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, so they took that part essentially out about the districting, about the states having the ability to set those districts. See, and this is why we're, I have a feeling as we get down into more stuff, we're going to see how things kind of pin together and how they
Yeah.
kind of,
They interrelate.
yeah. So then, do we want to create that committee? Like, does the committee make sense for like ties?
Or, you know, yeah, or if there is some sort of impropriety or the believed impropriety, I don't.
Well, I mean, that's essentially what it is in cases. Tribunal shall apply the law in effect at the time and place the dispute arose and shall not have the authority to change or rewrite such laws.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean,
essentially,
I think there is something that's needed to protect against gerrymandering, but I mean, I think this is where the
that's not
open source
gerrymandering.
algorithm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this isn't about gerrymandering. This is about,
Oh,
like, if there's a dispute about an election in some way, shape, or form, you
yeah.
create a tribunal within Congress so that
Okay.
that it doesn't go to the Supreme Court. Like, if you're talking about a law, like, okay, so this is where a lot of this comes into play. The Supreme Court, the judicial branch of the government, is meant to uphold and or interpret laws. That's what they're meant to do. They're meant to
Yeah.
take, okay, what is this law? How does it interpret? How should it be? Is this person, what this person is doing or trying to do, does it violate a law or a way that a law should be interpreted? And that's what they just do, an interpretation of the law. The problem is once they say, yep, nope, this is what the law is, there's no way for them to enforce it. There's no
Well, yeah.
enforcement. I mean, they have the marshals, which I believe fall under the
Yeah. But
judicial branch, but
yeah, but in the few times that the president has ignored a Supreme Court order, like, what are they? What are they going to do? Go tell the marshals to go take the president and lock
no,
him up?
yeah, the only thing that can be done is then Congress has to vote for impeachment and go through that
Yeah.
whole process. But if, you know, like they tried to do with Jackson,
Yeah.
and then if the person doesn't get impeached or removed, then nothing happens to them.
Yeah.
So essentially, as president,
So,
you can violate whatever law you want to, as long as you can't get impeached by Congress. Well, not okay. Sorry. As long as you can't get convicted by the Senate, it doesn't matter,
yeah.
because you're not going to be removed from office. You're literally. I mean, Nixon stepped down. He didn't get removed. He
Right.
wasn't impeached.
Well, yeah, because he knew he was going to get convicted.
Well, that's because he didn't have the power that he knew he needed.
Yeah.
And I think he might have also had a little bit of integrity, just a scotch, just
You,
enough, just
you,
enough.
well, that's hard to say after what he was doing.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no, no.
I'm not saying that means that if somebody does something bad, they have no integrity. But it's interesting in the vein of, oh well, it's okay if I do this election fraud thing and I violate people's privacy and
But
all
if I
that
get
stuff.
caught,
Yeah, but if I get caught, like I'm gonna own up to it. I don't know, and maybe there's something to be said for that. Like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna play outside the rules, but if I get caught,
I'm not
then
going to let it. I'm not going to let it ruin. Like Like, because if
Yeah.
he would have, if by him stepping down, I think they're not going to try him.
Yeah, and put the country through all of that, and the division and
Well,
the backbiting and all that stuff.
not only
Yeah.
that, if he would have gotten convicted, he would have lost a lot of. He would not have the resources that he continued to have if he would have been convicted.
Yeah, fair enough. Or he could have ended up in jail.
Correct. So it's easier to just step down and say, "I'm good. We're going to leave this to whatever." And then didn't I think it was Johnson, right?
Thought it was Carter that came in after. It wasn't Carter.
I
Because
don't.
Johnson was right after Kennedy.
Ford. It was Ford.
Or, yeah.
Because okay, Johnson was
Ford
before
and
him.
then Carter.
Didn't he pardon Nixon?
Yes, he did. Right. That was his first act as president, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that was the smart thing for him to do, because now he can't be tried for anything. He doesn't lose any of his benefits of being the president. He doesn't, just by stepping down. So it's one of those things of, hey, you're going to get screwed. Step down, I'll pardon you, and you can go on whatever. But bad.
Yeah.
Slap
Naughty,
that
naughty.
wrist. Yeah, but you can't ruin our big picture thing here.
Yeah. But going back to the commission, the thing that I was thinking about was what I feel like if you were going to do that, there would have to be some sort of rule in place where you say, okay, hey, if it meets this standard of what we think impropriety is, or using the algorithm as an example, you say, okay, hey, if the computer and the paper votes are off by 0.5% or 1% or whatever that ends up being, you cannot create the commission before that. Like there's if it's not off, yeah. Because otherwise, I feel like if you leave it up to a vote or Congress or something else, like that's just going to get partisan, and it's be like, well, my team lost, and I want my team to win, and I've got my identity and my ego wrapped up in that. So, we're doing this.
Yeah, I get what so what you're saying is
there has to be a threshold.
Yeah,
I feel like.
Yeah, because this is
we're going to do the commission.
Yeah, you can establish the tribunal to be the judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of all elected officials, consisting of Yeah, but it doesn't. It just says. Okay. Here it is. There's the reason. Congress shall provide by law for equitable representation for resolution of disputes involving more than 2 candidates for office. Disputes involving more than 2 candidates for office.
So I'm trying to unpack that. So I was saying there have to be at least 3 candidates involved.
That's what let's just do a Google and see what Gemini says. Yeah, I don't care.
Nobody asked you if it was in the Constitution.
Yeah, I know. Does not contain a clause made in equitable. Okay, the 12th Amendment specifies if no presidential candidate wins a majority of the electoral votes, the House representative chooses the president. Yeah, we know that. Each House. Article 1, Section 5, each house shall be the judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members. Federal law provides a framework for handling contested elections with the committee in the House. So that's for the House, for each House. So both the House and the Senate. Hmm.
Yeah. I think we maybe do the tribunal thing, but maybe try to reword it.
Well, I'm just like what like we're talking about for the purpose of. So if you look at, let's look at the right here. So section 5, I know each house should be the judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum. Okay. Each house shall be a judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members. Whereas what you have, Congress shall a tribunal that shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications. So wait a second, what does Section 5 have? Yeah, they took it out. In the conservative, they took that first part out. So they took that first part out and put it under Section 4.
Interesting.
So rather than having its judging it themselves within their body, they're talking about creating a tribunal for both, for any election disputes within the House or with. To decide based on law versus having to go through the whole House or the whatever, and then possibly bringing in a judge or going to the Supreme Court to say which is what. I don't know. I'd have to see. I'd have to, like, obviously they're talking about certain instances of things happening. Like, there has to be some precedence for it. You know what I mean? So I'm interested to see what is causing them to want to do this.
I think again it goes back to the the election issues we've had in over the past 25 years. Like, and again I'm going back to Gore and Bush, where dude they sat in limbo for almost 3 months. I want to say that they, like, at one point they almost got to the point where they thought that they weren't actually going to swear in the president in January.
Yeah.
Right. Because they couldn't figure out who won the election.
Which is really,
And eventually the Supreme Court came in and I think basically decided, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I remember hearing about. I remember something about that. You know, that was back when I didn't care as much about what happened in government.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you heard about it on the news, but at that time,
Yeah, it wasn't as easy to get
age.
information. It wasn't as freely available, and you were you believed the headlines, right?
Exactly.
Whatever the headline said, that was the news.
So this is the part right here. The committee thought that some better mechanism for deciding election disputes is necessary. Currently, such disputes are resolved by the members of the House and Senate themselves or by the courts. So I understand. I get what they're saying. I guess the question would be, is it a bad thing to have that tribunal do that? And if it's not, why shouldn't it be added? Because if we can't argue against it, then there's no reason not to have it, right?
Yeah. What is that?
I mean, it's one of those things like.
Is that proof by induction? I don't think it is.
I don't know. But like if you can't find anything, like if you can't poke holes in the theory of why it shouldn't happen, if you can't give a logical reason why this doesn't, it's not going to be good, or there's going to be a possible way that it could be abused or something of that nature, and you can't offer a solution, an alternative solution. Right now, the solution is,
Proof by contradiction.
yeah, the right now the option is it goes to the House and Senate, and then by the courts. But then you want to keep the courts out of it because then it's courts by party line. So 3
I know.
nonpartisan people and 4 people by the majority and minority. So you would think you would get a reasonable representation.
Yeah. Whereas the courts you draw, that my concern with the courts is that it's become very partisan because of the way that they're appointed.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's become partisan, but how, like, they're not interpreting a law.
Right.
They're,
No, they're they're writing law from the bench.
yeah,
And they've been doing that for I think
a
kind of the whole
while.
time, but I think it's just gotten worse and worse and worse.
So, and that's one of the things that it says in here, you know, tribunal apply pre-existing law, thus eliminating the unseemly spectacle of supposed law interpreters changing electoral law in the
Yeah.
middle of an election. So,
Yeah.
if you take it to the courts, it's their job to interpret and or, enforce or whatever laws, so for them to say, oh, well, you know, based on this, we're going to do this interpretation. You can argue afterwards, but I don't see a problem with it.
I
I
don't
don't.
either. I think it's a good idea overall. Maybe we change some of the language a little bit and uh,
Well, I'm just, I guess for any election disputes that's like I said, I would want to see precedents. I would want to see how that stuff has been used before. Like
mhm.
what cases, like if you can take the Bush Gore, but obviously there's other things that have, you know, whether it's a seat, for a House or Senate seat, that this has been used. So we have to do a little more, um, you know, more info about. I probably spelled that wrong, but okay. The redistricting, we have that part of the Article 2. Sorry, Article 1, Section 2. Do we want? We should put something in here about means of voting,
Yeah.
sort of like ranked choice, etc. I every voting thing has its problem.
Yeah.
Do we want to? And this is where I was saying, the 3/5. Do you allow the populace a means of
I think
causing an
so.
election?
Yeah, I think so.
And what are those means?
It's got to be a way where there's the state legislature can't or any legislative body or governing body for that matter can't interfere with can't stop the process from happening. So like a petition comes in and they take 500,000 votes off or 500,000 signatures off the ballot. Like so I like some sort of vote. I like maybe you do it online, you do it through a web page.
Well, that will.
But what actually triggers the vote itself? That's what I'm trying to
So,
figure out.
so here's the thing: if you do the part to where if you implement something to where you have to vote, and if you don't get any, federal or state
Yeah,
help. You have to see. This is the part where I said it sucks. You would have to have a national registry,
yeah,
which we already have from a Social Security perspective. But it doesn't list your
yeah,
political associations. It doesn't list your, all of those types of things. But I mean, in all honesty, we could just put it as part of the Social Security, like part of the Social Security system, you have it in there whether or not this person voted and attach it in some way, shape, or form to that
Yeah.
person
That makes
voting. The problem you run into is corruption by, you know, having the ability to change what somebody puts down for voting. It will
Yeah.
also it will also make it easier to get rid of the fraud from that certain people spout there's so much fraud for Social Security and Medicaid, Medicare, like all of this, people getting stuff that they shouldn't, that people receiving benefits that are dead, or all of that stuff.
Yeah.
If you make it to where a person, quote unquote, has to vote, and this gets into some sort of, this is almost a security perspective. How do you validate that that person that is voting is an actual person?
MFA.
In what
You,
manner?
you require. You
Do they have
require
to
a
go to a
so.
Do they have to go to a polling place? Do you
No, I
have?
would say. I would say do it online, and then the have tokens on your phone. Um, use an authenticator app
What if
maybe.
what if somebody doesn't have a phone?
I mean,
What if what
at
if
some point
somebody
we're gonna cover that, right? I mean,
what's
everybody
a
like
military?
in my head, everybody gets a phone
Well,
because
you
like
have absentee ballots from people that are outside of the U.S.
sure.
How do you validate them? This is
Um,
this is one of those
yeah,
problems that you have with voting, is the validation, and this is what a lot of people complain about, is how do you know
yeah,
that these people are, one, allowed to vote, which if they
and
have
who
a
they
social
say they
security
are.
if they have a social security number, they should be allowed to vote if they're over 18.
I think I think you handle it the same way you do identity access management, like the
Like for the
cybersecurity stuff,
IRS,
huh?
like the IRS has for their, like, to log into the IRS's website, you have to have
Yeah,
the,
or for
it's
me
like
to log into
ID me or
the
something.
yeah for me to log into the VA, I have to go through ID.me.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the government's
Yeah.
identity, or whatever is ID.me.
Yeah, and I had to submit all this paperwork and my driver's license and
So
all that. And then I had to take a picture on my phone.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so I guess the question is now, because they this was an article I was just reading. Social Security still sends out around about 400,000 paper checks.
Jesus. Yeah. Uh,
Like, don't get me
those people,
wrong,
dude, those people just got to die. Like, I mean, so like, I'm not saying go kill them. You just got to wait for them to die. Like, because
that's terrible.
Cause,
That is so
Cause it's
horrible.
2025, bro.
That's
Like if
so
you ain't got a
terrible.
phone and you ain't got a computer, like
Well, no,
I
a lot of these people don't have bank accounts. They're saying because they can't, because most of Social Security is by direct deposit, or
and what
through
they're going to a payday
or
loan check cashing
or
place to cash these checks.
well, they also have the debit cards, the Social Security
Okay,
debit cards, and these
God,
people
dude.
still receive their Social Security checks, paper checks, in the mail, and then they go and cash
All
them
right. Do
somewhere.
you really want to discuss this one off like and this
It's 400,000
outlier?
people there, bro,
Yeah,
bruh.
I get that. I do, and I'm not saying that we don't need to solve this problem, but like do we need to? What I'm trying to say is that we like can we peel them off and do that separately and just talk about what's going to work for the mass of people. You know what I mean?
So let me make sure I'm understanding
And
this correctly.
I'm not saying we don't fix the problem. I'm just saying we fix the problem for as many people as possible, and then we figure out this outlier afterwards. Is what I'm trying to say.
So this is, I agree to an extent, but what's really interesting to me is you have people that are receiving a paper check, which means you have a mailing address of wherever they're being mailed to, right?
Hmm. Fair enough. Or a PO box could be.
Well, I mean, in some way, shape, or form, you have a way to validate those people.
Yeah.
400,000 people in the grand scheme of things is not that many people.
Right.
Like
That's the point I was trying
I
to
don't
make.
know the split between the states or whatever, but you should be able to validate those people, because if we take and we use the voting, people are only going to get benefits that have Social Security numbers, and this is what you always worry about. You always worry about well, fraud and people taking advantage of the system. So if you tie voting to Social Security, to where that person has to vote, and then you're talking from a perspective, well, what if that person's being influenced by somebody else to vote? What if this person's 80 years old and they give their paper check to someone to go down to the bank to cash, or that person
Yeah.
deposits it, whatever, and then gives them the money. Da, 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 da. And how does this person, if they can't leave the house, if they're not capable of voting, how do you, like, you're just going to stop their benefits if they don't vote? And then if
Yeah,
you,
I think it would have to be something like, okay, hey, if you miss two, you gotta come up with an explanation. And if and then and then after that point, it's like, nah, you're done.
well, I mean, I think from that point there should be a way to apply for physical validation. Look, at the polling places, they have people that come out to cars and will sit there and help you
Yeah.
vote on the
Right.
car if you can't make it into the polling place.
Well, and
You
that's
can
the
do
other
an
thing too.
absentee ballot. You know what I'm saying? If you ship an absentee ballot to the same place you're sending the check, the paper check, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you could do that. The my thing too is that if it can't be an online vote because you have to have a paper. We have to have a paper trail.
Have to have a paper
Like,
trail.
yeah, um, and so then for me it's like, okay, so then you have to set up the vote. You have to get the polling places ready. That takes time, coordination, effort,
We already
like
do that.
all that.
We already do that.
Agreed. But in that vein, what triggers that? Like, if we're doing a vote, what?
Oh, we're talking about, like, if we say, hey, we
Right.
want we want a new
Yeah.
election. We want
Yeah.
we want to run, and we don't think that this person is fit for office.
Right.
We want a different person in this
Yeah.
particular office.
How do you get the machine? Like,
It's a
how do you,
requirement. I mean, it's just
huh?
like if you lose a seat in the
Yeah.
Senate, if you lose a whatever, they have a runoff election, or they have some sort of
Yeah.
election process to get those seats. So it's the
But there
same
has to be
thing.
something that kicks that off, that decides that, right? Because right now we have set voting times and places and polling places that happen every so often. What I'm saying is that if the majority of the people decide that, hey, we want a new vote, what kicks that off? Like, what, is it like uh, so many Facebook posts or so many posts on Instagram that people are unhappy? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Am I?
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Okay.
I get you, because you have the clauses for that stuff in the Senate and the House.
Hmm.
The House, when vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. So, writ of
Right.
election.
But if you're relying on the people that you want to remove to issue a writ of election,
No, they don't have
eh,
a choice. It's just so. I understand what you're saying.
yeah,
If we have, I mean, say you even have, 4/5, like an overwhelming amount of majority of people, they
yeah.
say, nope, this person's out. We want a new person in. Who's going to enforce it? Who's going to be the person that says, hey, we have
No,
to actually do this, right?
I'm not saying that about the 4/5 and how it's going to be enforced. I'm saying, how do you determine that 4/5? And I understand that's through a vote, but there has to be something before that. Like
Okay.
California recall elections. It's a petition, and it says if you get 1.5 million signatures or 2 million signatures,
Yep.
that person can be recalled.
Yep.
Like, and so I think that's a good. Uh, I think that's a good idea in sense, but then when you send in those petitions and and the governing body looks at that and says, "Oh well, half of these signatures are completely invalid, so you need to get 1 million more." Like that, to me,
I got you.
that's not a good test
Yeah.
to because then whatever system you're putting in place to initialize that vote, like it can be gamed, and it can be gamed by the people that you're trying to get rid of, because
Yeah.
they're the ones that have to actually create, that have to flip the on switch for the voting machine to go in to come to life.
To go get a vote. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm kind of struggling with. And so is it some kind of online opinion? Is it some kind of, like online petition? And then you put strict rules in place that says you cannot invalidate these signatures. But then you'd have people on the other side that are gaming it, that are gonna find a click farm out in Bangladesh
Yeah.
that's gonna hammer that website. And
Put all kinds of
uh,
people's information in there.
yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing, how do you validate the signatures? And that's always
Yeah.
one of the biggest things I mean, you have a hard enough time validating an election, let alone a petition that's put out.
Right. And so it's like, how do you accurately reflect the will of the people that they want this revote, this recount, or not revote, but
They want this special election.
the special election.
So, I mean, the only way that I can see you do something like that would be you'd have to have a way to take your voter roll, whether it's through Social Security, like we were saying, like if you vote, like the only way you
Mhm.
vote is to get whatever. So you're adding quote unquote a flag to a Social Security profile. You would have to do that, like to validate those signatures, and I mean you would have to have an option within that profile to kick off.
Yeah.
Because to get
It,
manual
it,
to
gets-
get
it gets
manual
real hairy, doesn't
signatures.
it, real quick.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because it would have to be kicked off by the states. The states would have to do it. So
Right.
that's
Yeah,
where you
because the
go.
states are the ones that have to do the special election itself.
Well, yeah, and
And
usually
and,
the
and you,
states want to fill their vacancies because it's their representation.
yeah.
But and that's why like 3/5 of the states is 30 states.
Yeah. But then let's say you want to remove a state, or a senator at the federal level, and that senator is
I
is is Democrat.
I think
I
you
and
already I think you already have that means through the state. So for the Senate,
Yeah.
for Congress, for the Senate and for the House, you already have means to remove those. You already have a means to remove those from a population standpoint through the state because they're both a representative from the state. The problem that you have is you have no way to remove federal like people that have been appointed federally. Like the president is not a representative of a state.
Right.
It's supposed to be a representative of the entire country and or of the people. The judges on the like they're supposed to be a representation of the people, of law, of like
Yeah.
it's the government in and of itself is supposed to be a representation of the people. The thing is that being a republic, we have a representation by a representative instead of the full representation of the people,
Yeah.
because there's no if you put if you put a federal budget out to the constituency, you're going to lose your mind because
Yeah.
it's never going to get passed.
Yeah, and everybody's going to have something to say about it. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
why are we paying for this? Why are we paying for that? Why are we doing this?
yeah, I mean, unless you attach the voting to whether or not you're going to receive any funding.
Yeah.
Once you start messing with people's money, it's really funny how that works.
Yeah. Well, they act in their own self-interest. At the very least, they act in
Correct.
their own self-interest.
So when you're talking about like to remove a state representative, the states already have those powers. Like you said,
Yeah.
1.5 million signatures, whatever. The petition for that, and then saying that the signatures are invalid, that has to be a state. That is something that you have to resolve at the state level. But if we're
Yeah.
talking about the ability of the people to, quote unquote, we're talking like this is a what are they, this is like the big red button. This is like, hey,
Yeah.
this doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
we're not talking about something that's like every other year they're like, nope, we're good. Like you want it to be big enough to where to the point of there's enough discontent and there's enough like you're trying to prevent violence is at this point is
Yeah.
what you're trying to do. You're giving the people a way to
A
organize,
voice and outlet.
correct, to organize peacefully to prevent people dying is what it boils
Yeah.
down to. So the odds of that happening should be almost never. Like we're talking about major discontent.
Yeah.
So at that point, we're talking about, okay, well, what if the person doesn't let it? Well, the choice is that they either let it or they're going to be met with violence, because this is like the fail safe. This is the
Yeah.
last resort. If we get to the point to where over 60% of the population is saying, hey, we want something different, this isn't working for us. If you get to that point, hopefully you will have an understanding of knowing, well, my choices are either I'm going to be,
So, and I'm just using
I
this
choose
for the sake of
violence.
argument. Yeah, I'm just using this for the sake of argument. But what if you said that if the president's approval rating dropped below 40%, would it then initiate
No.
a vote?
No, because the approval rating, it doesn't. The approval rating
It's not
can be
necessarily accurate. I understand
correct
that.
because it's not an actual represent. Like, yeah, they survey 1,000 people.
Yeah. So my question is still the same though. Like, what starts a special election? How does that process get kicked off? How do you say flip this switch or hit this big red button?
Well, that's where we need to, and that's where like the three-fifths, what we talked about. Like if 3/5 of the
But
population.
how do you get that? How do you get that vote? Like if you
No,
just have a bunch of angry people.
I
Yeah.
get you. I get you.
Yeah.
It's essentially how do you organize that many people? How do you get to that number? What is the effective way of saying, hey, we have 180 million people that are
gonna go to the White House and burn it to the ground
yeah,
if we don't get this vote.
exactly. If you deny us this capability, then you are then as they say, after you've exhausted all other means.
Yeah, you are basically saying I choose violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come and take it from me is essentially what
Yeah.
you're saying. Well, nope, sorry, come and take it from me. So the question is how do you put something in place that allows that to happen, that allows those people to organize and or to effectively, how do you, what's the word I'm looking for here? How do you accurately and effectively represent those people from a perspective of making sure that it's not being influenced by something else?
Yeah. I mean, I think a petition is a good start. I um
You could do
it's a start to
okay.
an idea. I don't know if it's the right idea. I don't know.
Well, you could start a petition that could
Possible,
kick off of
plausible.
a vote.
Yeah. I think
But you
that's
got to make
fair.
it. You got to make it. You got to make it hard though. It can't just be some willy nilly thing that happens every 3 months, 6 months, a year, two
Yeah.
years. Like this has to be. Like I
Like
said,
you
it's a
pass around online.
like
Yeah.
like this has to be something that if this doesn't happen, you're going to get violent. Like there's going to be violence. Like because
Yeah.
this is our last effort. Like right now there is no last effort. Like it's we can protest, we can do all that stuff, but you have to wait. You have to wait till an election.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. So you have to wait 2 or 4 years. Period. So there's no other choice at that point other than okay, well if we don't want to wait, if things are getting
So
bad and we want to affect some sort of change as the people, we have to resort to violence, which is what a majority of people don't want. Nobody
so
wants to see their family
so
members.
how about this? Then we do it online. We set it up with ID me, um, and then we cross reference it with the Social Security database. And then if you get people going online and signing this petition, then and you hit that well, I don't know, what is it, 30, what do we say, like, do we want 20% of what the vote would be that's required? I mean, and you have to
No,
get
no,
it in like a month. You kind of get where I'm going with this, right?
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. You can put a time limit on it. You
um
can, to where it's to the extent
and,
of
and you say 30 million signatures, you got to log in with ID me, like you so your identity can be verified, and then we cross reference your ID with the Social Security database, and then if that information is accurate, that counts as your petition signature. And then you hit 30 million, or whatever we pick the number to be. And then if you get there in a month or 2 months, um, like, that's your ass. Like, we're going to a vote.
is 30 million. Like it's got to be a percentage.
Yeah,
It's got to be a
agreed.
percentage of the
30
population.
percent, 30% of 60%, 25% of 60%. Is that too much? Not enough? Like what?
So if we're
So,
talking
so if you look at California for a governor's recall, what are what's the population in California right now? Is it 30? Is it 38 million, or is it?
of
Why am I
eligible
thinking?
voters,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Okay. Two, two, two. 26.29.
Okay. So if we say, I believe the threshold for a recall in California is 1.5 million signatures. So that's like what, less than 5%?
Is
Then
it is it is it by a percentage or is it by
let's ask chat.
because 80% or roughly 22.9 million people are registered to vote. I do like that they have the breakdown here where Democrats are 10.4 million or 45.3% of registered voters. Republicans are about a quarter of registered voters. It doesn't give a number. And then independent or no party is about 1 in 5 registered voters. I love how it doesn't give numbers for the other, for the,
It's
let's,
12%. That's the number.
12% of what?
12
Registered
in
or
California, to trigger a recall, the state level elected officials official. Petitioners must gather valid signatures equal to 12% of the votes cast in the last election for that office.
12% of the votes cast in the last election. See, that's
I kind of like that.
so you're talking about 12% of the votes cast in the last election. So if you had like 50%, like if you had like a 49-51, or you had even a 45-55, like 12%. I mean, the key
Well, what
the key
what
thing
are they
is
saying? How many votes were cast in the last presidential election? Let's just use that. What was it,
100
like
and
170?
168 something. Okay.
So you're talking about 20.4 million signatures. Obviously, if it's the House of Representatives or the Senate, you're talking about a lot less votes because that's only one state's voting on that.
Yeah, no, but for a big, yeah, that's weird that they don't have. Oh, 77 and 75. So 152.
Okay, so it's a little less than that.
So we're talking. See, but you're talking of total votes cast. I would want it to be, because I mean, if you take something like this, if you take the Democrat versus the Republican, if you have the two party,
Hmm.
77,000 people voted for one, 75 for the other. So if you say, oh well, you need to get 10% of the total votes cast, 14 million
Like,
people, that's nothing to me. That I mean, you could do
no,
that.
well, you got to double it though, right? I mean, yeah, no, you're right. That's 14 million people. I don't know, man. 14 million people.
No, don't get me wrong. It's a lot of people. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that it's not.
but you're thinking it should be a higher threshold? What, like
Yeah,
20%,
yeah.
25?
I mean, just to kick off the election, we're talking about
Yeah,
just to from the point where you say, "Crap's fuck," we're
yeah. We're going down we're headed for a bad time. We're
like
going bad. We're in a bad way.
the the past year protests have not changed anything, and it's just
Right.
getting worse. We're just getting worse, and
Yeah.
we need to hit the big red button. They could do any number of things. They could cause any number of problems. I don't like, if you're that part, you should be able to get 20% of the total votes of the party. You should be able to get that with no problem. Like
Yeah.
if it's that bad, like, and you had a close enough election to where it was 49-48.
Yeah, because I mean, at that point, like and if you have a bipartisan election, which we're trying to get away from, but for
Correct.
the sake of argument, let's say that's what it is. Like you're talking about 70 million people that voted for the other guy. They're
Yeah.
probably they're gonna vote
And I
that
only
way.
yeah, and I only need to get what was that, 20%? 20% of
Yeah.
that vote to kick off another election?
So then maybe it's 60% of the votes cast.
I mean, it has to be a big enough
Yeah.
amount to where it's like we really need to, like, something needs to happen
Yeah.
to kick off, to get this election kicked off. It has to be a big enough to where the
Yeah.
person that is currently in power, the people that are currently in that position that you want out of there, that there's enough people to say yes, the majority of the country. We already know the majority of the population want you gone. Like, because this is, like I said, this is massive. Like, you're talking about
Maybe make it like 55%. So it's more than
more than
half,
half.
but you don't have to hit the threshold. Because yeah, I'm just thinking
Well,
Well,
see,
and
that's what.
enough if enough people are angry about it, it's going to get socialized on media. It's going to go viral. Like,
Correct.
and and people will get to the website.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's why I was saying you should be voter eligible population.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be who voted in the last election.
Yeah. Fair enough. Agreed.
Like bump them numbers up. 64% of the people voted. Like
Yeah.
of the registered voters, 64% of the registered voters voted. So you're saying every single like at that point you're saying 60% of the eligible voting population. That was literally everybody that voted in the last election.
Yeah.
like if you're at that point to where but again if we implement the thing to where you have to vote, if you don't vote you don't get you know any
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 benefits?
any benefits. That's the word I was looking for. You don't get any benefits from the country. I mean, it should be relatively easy. But I mean,
You
this
would
is
hope.
like I said, this isn't something to be taken lightly. This isn't something that's like, oh hey, no, this is the last alternative to somebody dying,
It's yeah, exactly. It's
or
this or
not
we burn it
somebody,
to the ground.
multiple people dying.
Yeah.
Like because
Or we call the French and we borrow some of their guillotines.
this is your line in the sand.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. And if you don't get it, like if you don't get the votes, then well, you don't have the support, so you're stuck till next election.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way it goes. No, this is something that I think it's 60% of the voting eligible population. Now, the manner of which you achieve getting these signatures or whatever, I think that the ID, I think if you have the information of all these people, everybody that's got a social security number, everybody that's, each state has their own registered voting, they have their databases for everything. You know, the, the country in and of itself has the IRS database, has the social security database. I mean, we have these lists of all these people. And it's really
Yeah.
funny that, some people are like, oh, well, we can't make a federal voting list because then that gives people the ability to see. Everybody's
Right.
like,
Right. But if we want to take people's money, we can create a database for that.
yeah,
Like
or if you
yeah.
want to get money, Social
Yeah.
Security. But the thing is you can't have party affiliation in it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. It's vote yes or no. Did you vote yes or
Yep.
no? Because it could be used against people if it has who they voted for. I think that is from a state level. That should be from a state level, whether from a party perspective. But then you go if you do. So you have it run at the state level, and then you have it whether or not this person voted, given up to the federal level is the only thing I can think, because you don't want the information stored at a federal level of what your voting decision was. Which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, come on. I mean, I can log into I can go to the state. You can go to the state websites in most places and look and see what a person voted for, what they're registered as.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. Let's just do. Pick a state. Virginia. Let's do
North
Virginia.
Carolina. Let's go with yours.
Virginia.
Virginia?
Voter
Virginia.
registration, Department of Elections. Let's see, because I believe that you can view your info. Let's see. View your current registration status now. Check registration status. First name, last name, birth, date of birth, Social Security. There you go.
Works for me.
So you can look up any. It's funny how the last four of your Social Security numbers is literally the key to everything. But yeah. So, and I believe that there are. Let's see. Let's see. Voter search in North Carolina. First name, last name, year of birth. Don't even need a social security number for North Carolina. Do you know what it is in California?
I don't think you need a social security number in
California.
California.
Voter roll. Elections
They
and
would.
voter information.
Sure, at this point, California is probably like all you need is a. Um, they'll probably even take like your alien ID number at this point.
Personal information. Oh, actually, find a record. You will need to enter personal information. First name, last name, date of birth. In order to find an exact match, you must have your California driver's license or your social security number. Yep.
All right, so I think we got a pretty good, at least an outline of how we do this.
So, I mean, you have that. The voter information is available. The voter registries are available online. So, if you take that and you put that up, because I think most voter registrations have social security numbers attached. If they don't, um, it's essentially to link. I mean, you look at Real ID. Real ID is a national. It's a national ID now.
Yeah,
So
wish
we're all just a
wish
bunch of
I'd
numbers.
gotten in on that investment. You can't win them all.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think from that point, when we're looking at stuff is of last resort. Before violence. I think that's a good way to put that in there. Let's
Yeah.
see. Election triggered by 60%. Oops, 60% of voting population. Okay.
Do you want to put through online petition and um, ID of
Um,
and verification of identity?
should buy federal systems. I'm going to put that. I don't think that I know that they. Um, I thought that they had. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Petition the White House. 100,000 goal. Like,
Yeah. So it'd be something like this, but obviously the website would need to get retooled as far
well,
as.
well. I'm just wondering, how do you sign it? I guess you can't sign it after it. Well, no, you should be able to. 100,000 signatures in 30 days, which is nothing.
Right. What if you click on popular petitions?
Oh, you got to sign in.
Yeah, there it is.
Sign a petition.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, it doesn't. Historical material is frozen in time. The website no longer updated, and links to external websites and some pages may not work. There you go.
So I don't think the White House wants to hear from anybody right now. Only, at least
Huh.
not,
Well,
which is what it sounds like to me. It's almost like they've surrounded themselves in an echo chamber, and they believe they're right about uh, whatever the issue of the day is.
yeah, this was launched by the Obama administration, 2011. First Amendment, petition the government for the redress of grievances. Yeah, not that it. Oh, this is federal employees. Yeah. So, I mean, that's something that's going to we'll have to figure out on that. But yeah, I mean, outside of electoral means of voting, ranked choice, in all states, and for voting in all states, and I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna throw this out there.
And then we put the gerrymandering rules in section 2, right? We already put that in.
Yes. Oh my gosh,
Oh
I
yeah,
almost
dude,
I
for
almost said
sure.
all users. I said all users. Um,
We've been working in IT way too
whew.
long, man.
Election day is a federal holiday. Um, all all employers are required to allow for voting. And, we could put something in there. But early voting
Don't
for.
don't forget the armed guards at the polling places.
Exactly. Or early voting for what? A minimum of what? 3 weeks? 4 weeks? What do you think?
You think so? I
Because here's the thing: early voting is good because it won't it keeps the election. If you have an election place that has 100,000 people
yeah.
for that election place, and you try to get 100,000 people through in one day,
Yeah.
you're out of your mind.
Yeah, fair. I'm just I'm
I'm
wondering about the
4 weekends is what I'm just saying. 4 weekends. Like if you have a month to
yeah.
vote and you can't make it there, like you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, no, I hear you.
at that
I
point, we could do
I'm
two
just
weeks.
I'm the thought that popped into my head was just about like, okay, does that create more opportunity for some kind of fraud? But I mean, we're already protecting against that with other stuff that we're doing. So,
Yeah, I think that because so a lot of places, the state laws in a lot of places are like you can't count ballots until after the poll closes on election night. Like
yeah,
you can't if you have voting like early voting, all of those ballots are secure until after election day. So you don't.
yeah. If you're doing it electronically, uh, well, no, so you wouldn't run it through the electronic system until after
Well, it
the
would
whole thing.
be. I mean, it's going to be. At the end of election day, you're going to see the totals.
Yeah,
I think that there's even I know North Carolina does it. They have like they'll give you the totals of people that voted each day. Like you can get
yeah,
that information, but it doesn't give the results of it gives you totals. It
yeah.
doesn't give you
I think that works.
so early voter minimum. But I'm wondering, you know, I'm thinking 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And as maybe the Fed has to cover the cost for
State
keeping it open. Okay.
state always incurs the cost, which is then the federal. I believe the federal government allows budgets for.
Yeah. I'm just worried about the states that are on the poorer side that have to keep polls open for 4 weeks, and pay like 3 or 4 people or you
It's
know
it's volunteer.
and
They don't pay people. It's all
oh they
volunteer.
don't? Oh,
No,
okay.
no, no, no.
That's
You don't get paid for that.
that's
My parents used to volunteer for it.
stupid. Man,
Yeah,
who
you
would
have
want
you
to
have
do that?
some people. I believe that there's some people that are paid, but a majority, like they're a majority of volunteers.
Okay.
Why is it doing me? Why is it? Total cost of election. Yeah,
And 2020 was a little pricey.
no, this is money spent this is money spent by people, by candidates
Uh,
for election. What would you even call it? Allocated to states to run elections. The U.S. Election Assistance Commission manages and distributes these formula grants, which are not competitive. It's based on the state's proportion of the national voting age population. There you go. To receive funds, provide a 20% match for the grant award within 2 years of disbursement. Funds are used to broad improvements to the for federal elections, including technology, security. Um, yeah,
yeah, fair enough.
yeah. So that's what I was wondering is so there is elections, or I mean there is a funding. There you go, EAC funding by state. Oh, that's Alabama. So
Alabama. All right. So then I don't think we need to really change anything there or
yeah, I
add
think
anything.
yeah, and the uh, I don't. Some states in Alaska pay hourly, while others, such as Colorado, minimum daily rate. Even it's low, it's $5. North Carolina law example requires poll workers to be paid at least the state minimum wage. There you go.
Well,
So
let the states figure it out then. I'm
yeah,
I'm
it's
good with that.
it's it's all based on the state. Although it is primarily a volunteer position, poll workers are compensated for their respective shifts as well as attending poll worker training classes. Yeah. So that's yeah. I knew it was volunteer, but yeah, they do get paid. They do get paid some money. Because I remember that when my parents would go work the poll, they would be gone. Like they had training classes like a week or two before that they would have to go to a few training classes, and then they would be there all day. Like they would take their lunch with them. They'd be there from till the poll opened until possibly it closed. Like something that I look forward to when I retire is going and working the polls. Because I mean, if you go to the polls, a majority of the time it's retired people.
Yeah.
I mean, we ain't lying. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Unemployed activities.
no, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think it's great.
No, there's not. I didn't say there was. I wasn't saying like it was a bad thing. It's just,
Yeah. So, but yeah, no. So I think that's. I mean, you could do 4 weeks. I mean, we could do. I would say, how about you do a minimum of 2?
all right.
Minimum
And
of
then
2,
and then if they want to do more,
up
they can.
up to 4. I think
Okay.
it should be limited. We don't want.
I think the poll should never close, man. They just keep them open all the time, like
eh,
you know,
I mean, I guess that
rotate through.
depends on what type of business you're talking about having polls and what type
Yeah.
of polls are going to
Yeah.
be open. No. Anyways,
Feel like we already have an online solution for polls, anyways.
all right. So, is there anything else from a voting? So we
I
got
think
Voting Rights Act. Let's just okay. Hold on.
I think maybe the language from I forget. I think it's the 13th Amendment that talks about restricting voting rights based on color, race, that kind of stuff. That might be in the Voting Rights Act too. I don't know. I'm not sure. So it was so the 15th Amendment was already in place, and then in order to get the government to enforce it, they had to make the Voting Rights Act. Am I reading that right? Yeah.
Okay. Former abolitionists to the radical Republicans of Congress who fashioned the Reconstruction after Civil War, the 15th Amendment, 1870 appeared as from Africa set free by the 13th, citizenship guaranteed by the 14th, right to vote by the 15th. Was really only another step in the struggle for equality. Yeah, so essentially what they did, this was the Jim Crow stuff. So it said that they had the right to vote, but it didn't give the ability. It didn't say you couldn't qualify them.
Yeah, I got you.
Steps were taken to ensure literacy tests, grandfather clausing, excluding, who had not voted in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so essentially it didn't, this is where you get, it didn't have all of the stuff. Well, it doesn't say that we can't do this. And then that's where you have, that's when this.
Yeah, that's when you get a-holes that, want to do dumb stuff like this. And then
Yep. Poll taxes, literacy tests, and other bureaucratic restrictions to deny them the right to vote. Harassment, intimidation, economic reprisals, physical violence when they tried to register or vote.
Oh, so it's like getting jumped into a gang.
Yeah.
like going to vote is like getting jumped into a gang.
Yeah. By the end of 1965, 250,000 new black voters had been registered, 1/3 by federal examiners. End of 1966, only 4 out of 13 southern states had fewer than 50% of African Americans registered to vote. Voting Rights Act was readopted and strengthened in 1970, 75, and 82.
It's like, we mean it this time. Wait, no, this time.
Right?
No.
Yeah. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, no voting or qualification. Yeah, okay, so this is what I like about this. Voting Rights Act. Okay, so if we look, what was it in the conservative constitution? It was, what is that? 3 sentences? 4 sentences?
Yeah.
And, oh, that's the wrong one. And here's the actual, there's the actual act.
Right. Got a little bit more language in there.
Yeah. Yeah, so they just summarized, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody's going to try to play funny games inside of that at all.
So here's this is the thing. This is what's funny, and that's why I didn't like the no voting qualification or prerequisite to voting or standard or practice or procedure shall be imposed by any state or political subject to deny or bridge the right of what?
Where's the right of any citizen of the United States to vote?
There you go.
On
account of race or color. That's a little bit different than where is it? In all elections, all citizens who are of 18 years or older and are not currently shall be entitled to vote. So this first sentence, I guess, does that dictate what qualified voter is?
Maybe that's what it. But the whole thing of the Voting Rights Act is it says that there is no qualification to vote other than being 18 years of age. Well, no, that there is no qualification based on.
Yeah, you just have to be a citizen.
There isn't a qualification based on race or color.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that language needs to be more.
And that's what. Well, I mean, I guess you could take and you could look at this, and if you say the first sentence, all citizens who are 18 years of age and are not serving a sentence for a commission of a felony shall be entitled to vote.
Yeah.
So does that make
from a logic perspective?
Voter?
Yes, I think that fixes it.
All qualified voters.
because you're saying
I
these are
I
the
would
only
say
two, these are the
okay.
only two qualifications that exist.
No. I would change that to entitled, because you were
Okay.
saying that these are the people that are entitled to vote. They're not qualified, they're entitled. And then here
Yeah.
you say qualified voters, so you could argue that. I would say entitled voters because that's what the language is.
Yeah.
You're not saying qualified to vote. You're saying entitled to vote. So this should say entitled as well. I think that would
Agreed.
be, you have to use the same word, or you have to put qualified. You have to change entitled to qualified, because just because you're entitled to do something doesn't mean you're qualified to do it.
True.
Just because I'm entitled to
Those things are
vote,
not mutually exclusive. I agree.
correct. So I would change that to entitled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree. I agree with that.
yeah. It's crazy how wording affects.
Oh, I mean, the discrete math, like well, and I showed you some of my homework.
Oh
The
yeah.
class I'm taking with that is like it's all about that. Like you change one word and it completely changes the meaning of a logical statement.
Mm-hmm. So I think that take care of that.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, I
think we're
know that
good.
they abridged it a lot, but I mean,
Yeah.
you're not gonna, because this act is still going to be in place.
Yeah. Agreed.
Does it actually say in here? No state shall impose test or device denying the right. It shall be the duty of to protect from violence.
And duties.
Um, okay, it very much so shortened it. But if you change the quality to entitled, all citizens 18 years of age or older and not serving a sentence for a felony, not currently serving a sentence for felony,
Yeah, because I think if you're not serving, yeah,
shall
if
be
you're not
entitled to
serving a
vote.
sentence, then
So
yeah, you
this
should be
this
able.
takes care. Well, this takes care of your race, color, whatever, because you say all
Yeah.
citizens. And if you're 18 years of age or older and serving a sentence, not serving a sentence for a felony, you shall be entitled to vote. Should be the duty of the several states to conduct all such elections and to protect the right of all entitled voters to cast a secure and secret ballot for the qualified can for the that needs to be changed.
Yep.
Language about voters and qualified removed from, what is it? Um, Limiting. If they want to vote for somebody that's not qualified, it's their choice. Whatever the whatever the hell qualified means.
Yeah.
Okay. No state shall impose any test device that has the purpose effect of denying or abridging the right to vote. Shall also be the duty of several states to protect all qualified voters from violence, threats of violence, or an attempt to influence voting or dilution of the vote by any person not legally eligible to vote. I don't like that language either, because this
Yeah.
allows you to create laws
That make people
that limit
ineligible.
people against this, and then you would have to fight in the court to say what to clarify this.
Yeah.
Any person not, I would say entitled. I would just say entitled. Use the same language.
Yeah. Agreed.
Remove. What was it? not legally not legally
All right.
eligible.
I got to pee real quick while you're doing that.
Yep. Replace with. Replace with entitled. Okay. Voting rights. Interesting. While we're waiting, so we're just not sitting here. We will play a. Oh, never mind. Josh is back. I was going to say I was going to play a little music for everyone.
My bad.
No. It's all good. I'm just. This is interesting. There. No person who demonstrates that he has successfully completed the 6th grade primary grade in public school or in a private school accredited to any state or like they're saying you have to complete a 6th grade education. As long as they've done that, you can't deny them the right to vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because the argument being that, well, you need to have a minimum amount of knowledge. You can't be completely illiterate if you
Yeah.
given the right to vote. Which I would love for people to take a 6th grade quiz in order to be able to qualify to vote.
Well, it's like that show that was on the air for a while, the
Are you
Jeff
smarter?
Foxworthy thing.
Are you smarter than
Yeah.
a 5th grader?
Yup.
Well, see, the thing is we all learn that stuff. We just don't remember a lot of it.
Right.
Yeah, this outlines the fines, imprisonment.
All right. So do we need to go over anything else? Because
I
I
think
am.
no. I think we're just about done. I have a 5 o'clock that I have to get to, anyways.
Yeah, and I have some other stuff I got to take care of today.
I think that this is. I think we got a lot. Voting Rights Act, replace all of that stuff. Election Tribunal. We need a little more info about precedents for that. Means of voting. We need to research. We need to more research on the method of voting, the means of voting.
Yeah.
Means of citizenry to cause an election or last resort before violence. I think that special election, minimum requirement for voting in all states. Election day is a federal holiday. All employers are required to allow for voting. Early voting for a minimum of two up to 4 weeks before election day. I think that that's. Anything that we're missing? I can't.
I think we're good.
Well, we'll
I'll
have to get all this written.
ponder on it,
Yeah, and then we can
all
look
the
at next
extra
week.
time I have.
Exactly, and I think from an election standpoint, we will be able to do that, and then next week, Section 5.
Let's do it. maybe even Section 6 at the same time. I don't know.
Well, this is the powers and duties of Congress in Section 5.
Oh yeah, yeah. We might be stuck on that one for a minute.
Well, this isn't Section 8 has the powers of Congress. So this is internal, I think. And then 8 is the external powers, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that this is internally how they sort of operate. And then this should be quick. And then if we can get to 6, the rights and disabilities of members. So, all right. I think we're good. I think that is. I think we got quite a bit done here. I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, I
Okay.
think we keep going,
Yeah.
keep getting this stuff done, and then it'll be interesting once we get this written and get more input and thoughts from people, and then go
Yeah.
over the revision again.
And thank you for listening and taking the time to think about it and respond
Yes,
as well.
definitely. Thanks to
Yeah.
everybody out there that puts up with us for these long, long conversations.
Yeah.
I don't think that any of our talks have been any less than 3 hours. It's crazy.
Yeah. It is kind of wild to think about it.
But hey, I mean, 3 hours at a time to go over the
Yeah.
basic
This way we'll
foundation.
be done in a couple of years. Yeah.
Don't remind me. Hey,
At least with the Constitution portion, there's still lots of other
oh, we
stuff to
have so
talk.
much to talk about.
Yeah.
We're going to solve all the problems right
Yes,
here.
we are. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yes.
Appreciate all of you. Stay safe and make good choices.
Make good choices. Don't ever
Yeah.
forget that. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.